Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a great Tuesday so far. Let's see what we have here in the chat today. We have Justin, Caleb, as well as Weather Warrior, Little Dude, Rockets in here, Haley, and everyone else who is chatting who I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're watching and not chatting, glad to have you in here, and hopefully you are having a great Tuesday. All right, let's go ahead and jump on into this and give everything a double check here. Hopefully we're all good to go. Looks good enough. Good enough, right? Yeah, looks like the overlay is all good to go. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the next few days for severe weather, just like we have been. Maybe a little bit of coverage today, depending on exactly how late this threat goes here. But, you know, tonight's going to be a very dangerous overnight significant severe weather threat. So hopefully you guys have that preparedness plan ready to go if you're in that, mainly in that pink hatched area there in North Dakota, South Dakota. And we will go over that right now. Right now, let's go over to weather front here. We're going to switch to our Outlook map. Actually, first, let's begin with our radar across the country here in the U.S. We've got a severe thunderstorm watch that was recently put out across Kansas and Nebraska, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, and the panhandle of far western Oklahoma. Just expecting a couple of severe storms. Can't fully rule out a weak brief spin-up tornado, but mainly just expecting 1 to 2 inch hail and 60 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts. So really the biggest threat today across this area is going to be those wind gusts followed by hail, and then we can't rule out a brief weak random tornado somewhere. We have a couple severes out here across western Kansas into western Oklahoma, northeastern New Mexico. Nothing overly crazy. However, this one here west of Ness City in Kansas is a significant severe for 2 inch hail and 70 mile an hour wind. So that is pretty significant there. Some very large hail falling with this storm. A lot of lightning, a lot of heavy rain, and some pretty significant damaging wind gusts out there across western Kansas right now. We'll go back to our nationwide radar. We have a random severe here on the border of Idaho and Montana. And we also have some severe storms starting to pop off. And this is likely going to be the beginning of our derecho. I think we will see a derecho today, or at least close to a derecho. Yeah, the last I believe the last 4 or 5 days in a row. The last 4 days in a row, we have had borderline derechos the last 4 days in a row here across the U.S. And I believe this will be the start of yet another borderline derecho here in North Dakota and South Dakota. And I know some of you guys are talking about yesterday's severe threat. I'll just go ahead and just for those who weren't able to stay up and watch the radar late like I was, I'm going to go ahead and recap that. Of course, I posted it on Twitter. I was giving updates there throughout the event yesterday uh, because I couldn't be live. So let's go ahead and just pull this out. We ended coverage yesterday just after 9:15. So this is where we ended our coverage yesterday with this complex of severe storms beginning. We had this MCS and a semi-discrete supercell on the northern end of that, and we had kind of this almost like warm frontal convection here, right? Lifting to the north with your MCS moving to the southeast, and that's a classic sign for tornado genesis on the northern edge of that MCS. And we almost got a violent tornado threat yesterday on that northern edge. You can even see here if we spin this out till 10:30. Look at that. 10:30, this is on MRMS, nationwide low resolution radar, and you can make out a classic supercellular structure right in here, and it almost produced a violent tornado. However, it didn't really seem like it ever got tight enough. It had the couplet for it. It had winds in excess of 200 miles per hour being gate to gate, so definitely could have put down a violent tornado. But it seems like maybe that lower level wind shear not being too high, which we talked about in yesterday's live stream, probably prevented this from bringing that 200 mile per hour wind speeds in the mid levels down to the lower levels to actually produce a tornado. But we did end up with a 113 mile per hour severe thunderstorm report here. 113 mile an hour wind gust from a measured MEDAR here at the Salina Regional Airport. And you could see that was at 10:18 Eastern, 113 mile per hour wind gusts there. And this continued to produce widespread 70 to 90 mile per hour winds over a very long duration from central Kansas all the way until just west of Kansas City, where it finally began to weaken. And we started to see those wind gust reports die down into the lower 60s and into the upper 50s for wind gust reports there. And then eventually by about 3 a.m. Eastern, this MCS died out. And look at the tail of destruction here, the track of destruction, a huge swath of significant damaging winds across this entire region right in here. A very large swath of significant damaging winds. Also a little bit more north than that. I didn't get up to Manhattan enough. So that was a very significant MCS and borderline derecho there from central Kansas to western Missouri, which is what we expected. That's what the HRRR was really not doing good at, and the RRFSA absolutely nailed it.
Flash flood warning has been issued.
The RRFSA nailed this event like crazy, and the HRRR eventually caught on to it, but the RRFSA really nailed this MCS last night. We continuously used that over the HRRR. Could it be classified as a derecho? I doubt it. If we take a look at our measuring tool here, if this was old classification, I'd say yes. You could see 280 miles. If we were using the old 2020 classification, yes, this would most definitely be classified as a derecho. But with 2025 classification, no, it didn't track far enough. It would have had to gone another 120 or so miles to be classified as a derecho. But in my opinion, borderline derecho, you could definitely debate that is a derecho. Because it actually, I mean, it began up in here too, you know? So you could say it tracked from up in here and then went all the way down south and then died out over here. So you could say it started, even if we say it started way back up there and we take our measuring tool and we go down to the southeast, that's closer. That is closer. That is 100 miles more right there. So, you know, like I said, borderline derecho, in my opinion. We've had 4 borderline, well, 3. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to go look. Let's just go look, shall we? Let's go look. 3 or 4 borderline derechos. So we have yesterday's borderline derecho, the day before that in North Dakota. I zoom in for y'all. This was yesterday's swath of significant winds there. The 7th as well, so that's day 2. And then Pennsylvania, day 3. So yeah, that's 3 days in a row. Today would be day number 4 for 4 potential derechos in a row. And again, going back to our current radar, we do have a active tornado watch here. Very high end. Almost got a PDS severe thunderstorm watch. However, the tornado threat is a little bit too high to warrant only a severe thunderstorm watch. So they opted to go with a tornado watch that is very high prob on both wind and hail and moderate prob there for tornado. So definitely want to be hyper weather aware in that area. Of course, we do have our 10 significant 1 tornado risk today. 10% SIG 1 tornado risk today across much of the state of North Dakota into far northwestern Minnesota. That 5% extends now all the way down into northwest Iowa, southeastern Nebraska. Very large tornado risk today, although it's not particularly high despite the 10% SIG 1. It's really not a particularly high severe weather threat today, or rather, rephrase that, a particularly high tornado threat. Extremely high severe threat, not a particularly high tornado threat, in my personal opinion. But I do think we could still get a spin up strong tornado or two if we do see that more broken up line, which we'll go over in just a bit on our model runs. The damaging wind threat today, we've got a giant damaging wind threat today. A big 30 hatched going all the way from the border of North Dakota and southern Canada, all the way down to the border of northern Texas and the western panhandle of Oklahoma. A absolute gigantic enhanced risk for severe weather today, and huge risk for damaging wind potential. And we also do have the threat for some very large hail, upwards of 2.5, 3 inches in diameter being possible with any semi-discrete storms. If we go back to our current radar, you can already see we have some of these storms producing 1.75 inch hail here in North Dakota, 1.5 inch hail there, 1.5 inch hail. So some of these storms already producing pretty good hail. I want to go to Canada real quick. I've been looking at this storm firing off the warm front here, moving off to the north in Canada, and it's attempted to produce several strong tornadoes, but I have no idea if it's actually succeeded with any of its tornado genesis cycles. Legacy, thank you for being a member for 34 months now. Gracious day. I greatly appreciate that. That is crazy. 34 months, just 2 away from 3 years. That is wild, Legacy. Crazy to think 3 years ago I sat on my old laptop and made those memberships. That is wild. Let's go into tomorrow's severe weather threat. And you can see here we have a large enhanced risk for severe weather. And you'll notice something a little different. Yesterday, this enhanced risk was relatively limited to Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota, northeastern Iowa, and northern Illinois. They've expanded that to the border of Missouri and Iowa and Illinois, that triple state border there. And they've expanded it considerably to the northwest as well, further into Minnesota. And I believe they also expanded it further into Michigan as well. So I believe they expanded the enhanced risk in every direction for tomorrow's risk. And we do have a 10% SIG 1. And hear me out on this. I'm not going to lie. I think this could actually have the opportunity of going moderate tomorrow. For tornadoes. I didn't say that yesterday because it really didn't look like a big tor threat, but it looks like tomorrow has kind of trended more towards a very clustered and semi-discrete mode, kind of multiple clusters of storms, not necessarily one big line. And as those storms first fire, if they can remain discrete, I would not rule out an intense EF3 plus tornado or two tomorrow, especially where they have that 10 hatched area. So it wouldn't surprise me if they push that 10 SIG 1 up to the northwest a little bit, to the east, and maybe just a tiny bit more to the south, and then add a moderate risk right in the dead center of that for the potential of those prefrontal storms in western Wisconsin. I'll go over that. Actually, we might as well go over that now, but first I want to get over the wind risk here. We've got a 30 SIG 1 wind, and then also a 30 SIG 1 hail. So let's go to our HRRR for tomorrow. I want to show you what I'm talking about. So this is for today. Obviously, big wind bag likely, and if we can get some of these more semi-discrete storms or broken up line segments, embedded supercells, whatever you may call it, we could have a strong tornado threat present in those areas. And that's why we have a 10 hatch today. But I want to just go to tomorrow. And I do want to note this morning convection is definitely going to play a role in tomorrow's event for sure. If we get too much morning convection, that could limit the overall severe potential for tomorrow. But it doesn't seem like that will be the case. I don't believe that will be the case. I think we'll have some morning convection, but not a very significant amount to inhibit tomorrow from being a big time severe threat. So about 3-4 p.m. is when our main threat's going to start kicking off, and it will start up here closer to the low pressure, where we'll have the potential for a few tornadoes, 1 or 2 strong, out there in northern Minnesota. So we'll watch that about between 3 and 6 p.m. looks to be the peak out there. And then about 5 p.m. Eastern, we'll start to see these storms fire. And this doesn't look too crazy here, at least in terms of discrete storms. But you can see, for instance, like these cells down in here, those would probably be capable of producing an intense tornado threat, especially if this did come to fruition with that storm in La Crosse, Wisconsin there. And maybe even some of these would pose a strong tornado threat a little bit further off to the north. If we take a look here at our tornado parameters here, yeah, look at that. You've got, actually, this shows a much more widespread open warm sector here. So many of those storms actually inside of this area would be capable of producing strong to intense tornadoes in this vicinity in here. So like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if we do end up with, I don't quite know about a moderate, to be honest with you, but I do think a 15 sig 1 is on the table tomorrow. It's probably going to come down to mesoanalysis significant tornado parameter on if they pull a sig 2 moderate risk tomorrow, because that parameter might not be high enough for them to pull a moderate risk. But this is the HRRR for tomorrow, and you could see a very well-defined hodograph there. A lot of lower-level curvature, too, about 180 lower-level 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, and almost 230 0 to 3 kilometer SRH in the mid-levels. So that is a very good hodograph, not a very elongated hodograph, so this may not be a very favorable environment for long-tracked intense tornadoes, but definitely a good threat for a couple of strong to maybe 1 or 2 intense tornadoes tomorrow, if storms can be a little bit more discrete to semi-discrete in that open warm sector. And then you could see as we go towards 7, 8 o'clock, we should start to see at least some Boeing segments form. It's hard to say if we'll see one big old MCS derecho, or if it will be more like what the HRRR portrays, with like bow echoes down in here, bow echoes up in here, and just kind of little clusters, not necessarily one big old line. So we'll have to watch that to see if our wind threat uptrends or if it stays kind of towards like the HRRR. So overall, here's the 2 scenarios. Either we get a little bit of a messy semi-discrete mode, which promotes big time hail and a much higher tornado threat, with still a present significant damaging wind gust upwards of 80, 85 miles per hour. Or these storms fire very clustered, very messy, and they instantly grow into a Boeing segment like this at 7 o'clock tomorrow, or right around there. And our tornado threat is more conditional, more towards embedded supercells inside of that line. Your hail threat is a little bit lower, and your wind threat is much more significant. So either we get a higher tor threat, higher hail threat, and kind of a medium wind threat, or we get a lower tor threat and a much higher wind threat, kind of a medium hail threat for tomorrow. Right now, the SPC is kind of in between that. They haven't fully went in on the wind threat. You can see there's no 45% wind risk here, and there's no 15% sig 1 tor threat. So the SPC is kind of just in the middle, which is a very good idea, with us still being about 20 hours out before storms start to fire. And that could easily change. We'll have to just see which way things trend for tomorrow, on if they want to upgrade the tor threat or the wind threat, or maybe just keep it the same. Maybe it'll be a little bit more sloppy. But I'll tell you this, we're going to switch to the RFSA 18Z run. If tomorrow does end up being a little bit more sloppy and not as organized, like we just see a bunch of isolated convection tomorrow, and not necessarily one big line that wipes out the cold front, or rather wipes out the open warm sector, we could end up with a higher ceiling on Thursday. And we're going to have to watch Thursday morning. There is going to be a complex of severe storms in southeastern Nebraska into western Iowa very early Thursday morning. And however that complex evolves will for sure impact how significant or how non-significant Thursday's overall afternoon risk will be. But I really think this is going to be a 1-2 punch here. Because even if this complex does end up being, let's say, a long-tracked MCS, or possibly, get this, a double derecho potential, because who knows, I still think we would have a good amount of instability behind that complex to be able to favor a significant severe threat. You could see this is complex number 1 right here. That's complex 1, and this is complex 2 down in here. So who knows, maybe we could get 2 big MCSs, which is kind of like what the RRFSA is hinting at, with a big MCS in this area. And then as we go later on in the day, we get some more reignition of a secondary area of convection, and that poses a much higher overall ceiling for significant severe weather. So I think Thursday will be a big day, but morning convection is going to matter probably the most on Thursday. I think Thursday has the best opportunity to underperform from expectation because of that morning MCS potential. So obviously the SPC withheld the day 3 moderate risk for now, and we can't get a day 3 moderate. I do think a day 2 moderate is still very much on the table, but we need to work out some more uncertainty on this MCS and if this MCS is going to die out. And I'll tell you one thing right off the bat. Even if tomorrow some of our models show this dying off, I wouldn't be so confident in that because we have such a good environment. So sometimes these models will be like, yeah, that complex of morning convection is going to die off at like 10, 11 a.m. But in reality, because the environment is still so favorable, that complex never dies off. And we saw that not too long ago, actually literally in Pennsylvania, not but, I don't know, like 5-ish days ago, where most of the models had the complex dying off in eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. You know where it actually died off? It actually died off as it passed New York City. It didn't die off over here like models said. It continued through Ohio, through Pittsburgh, all the way into downtown New York City, where it eventually just went off the coastline of the U.S. So I wouldn't be so confident in that dying off, but we'll need to keep an eye on that. That's definitely what's going to be drawing my main attention for the potential of an underperformance factor on Thursday. So here is what we're looking at for Thursday's trough, and you can see this shortwave right in here. So you've got this big trough. We have our low pressure bowling ball trough up in here. That's your main trough. And we have a embedded trough inside of that bowling ball trough. And that embedded trough is going to be your main trough for Thursday. It's going to get even more complicated than that. But inside of that embedded trough, inside of the bowling ball trough, you've got a third trough inside of that trough. And that's located right here inside this area. Complex situation for Thursday. It's never a one and done thing for Thursday or any severe weather event. So you've got 3 different troughs here inside of one. You again have your bowling ball trough, your main negatively tilted embedded trough for Thursday, and then your shortwave trough for Thursday morning. And you could see your main trough here. This is your big trough right in here for Thursday's severe weather threat. And you can even see here where that morning complex, kind of a lot of stuff happens here in the 500 millibar. That's going to lead to a lot of uncertainty. You've got a lot of moving parts with this. This isn't your ordinary, simple, big swinging bowling ball trough here. You've got like 3 different situations inside this 500 millibar here, because you have actually 2 shortwave troughs trying to develop in this. You've got a shortwave trough or a shortwave trough that is developed in here from morning convection, an afternoon shortwave trough that's trying to develop behind that, your main shortwave trough that is the cause for all of this severe weather, fueled by a bowling ball trough just to the north of that, that's helping to spin this entire thing and really cause Thursday to probably be the biggest day for severe weather. So either way, Thursday is going to be significant. The big thing is just how many rounds we end up with. Because that morning convection round could end up just being the main event. Or that afternoon round could end up being the main event. It's very, very complicated, very complex. But either way, significant severe weather will happen. Either way, we're not going to look at a full bust mode, but that's going to greatly depend on the ceiling of Thursday's event, because if that morning complex does die, Thursday quite easily could go high risk for damaging winds across the Chicago area, pushing into western Michigan and northwestern Indiana. But if that morning complex decides to screw up with the environment, then that afternoon round may not be much more worth than an enhanced risk for severe weather. However, that morning complex could survive long enough to where that actually becomes the main event. So either way, I think we're going to get a day 2 moderate with this. I will be shocked if we don't get a day 2 moderate with this. This is one of probably the best damaging wind setup we've seen this entire year. I expect this to go big as long as something doesn't go absurdly wrong with our 500 millibar trough. High risk is definitely the ceiling, like Caleb said, and then I think a moderate will happen. I really think it will be a day 2 moderate, but who knows? They might hold off on it. So this is that day 3 outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. It's a really good outlook, obviously. But if what looks like is going to happen based off of our model runs, I would think the SPC would increase the northern extent of that enhanced and push it back a little bit more to the west, and then bring it down a little bit more off to the southwest like that. So a little expansion to the northwest of that enhanced risk, and maybe a little expansion to the east of that enhanced risk, a little bit further into Indiana and Ohio. And then I would expect a moderate risk to be outlined, probably from somewhere around the border of Illinois and Wisconsin, roughly in this vicinity is where I expect there to be a moderate risk added for severe weather, right in here. That's where I would put the moderate. I would put it from generally Milwaukee all the way back to just west of Davenport, down towards where Caleb is, high. Back up all the way to either in Grand Rapids or just to the southwest of Grand Rapids. So that's where, right in here, this white outline, that right there is where I think the highest severe threat will be. Which, if you look at the SPC outlook, that's smack dab in there, 30 sig 1. What are the chances of a derecho on Thursday? Fairly high. Fairly high. Definitely the highest out of all of our stretch for severe weather. It is fairly high. We'll have to see what that morning complex does, but both of those complexes are probably going to have an opportunity to be a derecho. If the morning complex dies quick, it would be almost a guaranteed derecho. So that's the thing. If our morning complex survives and we have a double complex for, and by the way, complex, what I'm meaning is just a line of severe storms. If we have 2 lines of severe storms, that might decrease the chance for a derecho, because you might get one complex that goes from here to here, and that takes up a good amount of the environment. And then you get a second complex that goes from here to here. Whereas if you just get one big complex of severe weather, that can go from like central Iowa all the way to like eastern Michigan back into central Indiana. So we'll have to see which one looks more likely. And if that does happen, you could see that's 400 miles right there. Even if it goes from like west of Davenport back to Detroit, that's still 400 miles. And that first complex, if we measure it here, we'll say it really forms like right in here, right? Go from west of Omaha to where this roughly dies out. And like I said, who knows? Maybe we'll have double derecho potential on Thursday. If this forms early enough in the morning, if this does form indeed near 3 a.m. Thursday, Who knows? Maybe you get double derecho action off of this trough. Because that's how good your 500 millibar trough is. Like I said, it's really the perfect setup for a derecho. It's a perfect setup. These slingshot, I call them slingshot bowling ball troughs. That's what causes highest derecho potential. That's what we had on June 20th, 2025. We had a slingshot bowling ball trough, and that created one of the most significant derechos I've ever seen in my lifetime across North Dakota. And obviously, that helped spawn an EF5 tornado across eastern North Dakota. And I think Thursday, although definitely doesn't have nearly as high of tornado potential as that particular day, but the overall 500 millibar look kind of reminds me of those classic type derecho days. But thankfully, I don't think the tornado threat will be extremely high on this day. I don't think we'll have a chance for violent tornadoes. Let me take a look at this, though. Might have to take those words back. Yeah, like I mentioned in yesterday's live stream, this is definitely the type of line that would produce strong tornadoes embedded in it. And who knows, maybe you could get a violent embedded tornado right there. I wouldn't say it's impossible if this particular scenario unfolds. Golly, holy elongated hodograph. Oh my goodness. Look at that. That is definitely some long-tracked intense to violent tornado threat potential with that. However, it is a line. It's a line, so might not... If you got a discrete storm in front of this, that's almost a guaranteed intense to violent long-track tornado. But considering it's going to be a line, that might mitigate the threat back down to maybe a few strong tornadoes possible, and an intense tornado or two can't be ruled out embedded in that line. But if we get prefrontals on this, yeah, it's haywire, man. Let's go to the... Is the NAM 3K out? What does this have? I want to see the morning complex on the NAM 3K. So here's the morning complex on the NAM 3K. You could see it forms back here in southern Nebraska, moves through Iowa, moves through Illinois, and then it dies out right in there. It dies out in western Illinois. That's a theme on all of our models at the moment. And then the main derecho really doesn't get going very well. That would be, let me tell you, that would be probably borderline high risk for Tor right there. You have, Lord have mercy, you have multiple confluence bands in front of the cold front developing discrete supercells. That is probably a high-risk worthy event right there on the NAM 3K, and then it congeals up into your derecho. When have you ever seen the NAM 3K initiate semi-discrete in Illinois? But I don't think that's the most probable scenario, but that's very crazy right there. I don't believe that's a probable scenario. I believe our trough is more likely to push things into a line. I believe this trough is more likely to push things into a line, but my word. No kidding why your environment is very high end, because this trough goes full on. It looks like negative tilt here in the late evening on this particular model run. And yeah, I mean, that just sets up an S tier environment right there in Illinois. I imagine that's going to look like the RRFSA's hodograph, very elongated. Golly, there you go. Very elongated, more curvature. Man, can you see that number? Yes, you can. Look at that number, the 0 to 1 and 0 to 3 SRH right there. That is 574 0 to 1 SRH and 809 0 to 3 kilometer SRH. And this is at like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, or is this 6? It's either 2 or 6. It's 6. That's 6 p.m. in the evening in that case. And again, this particular model run shows semi-discrete convection right along those confluence bands. There you go. So it wouldn't be like the RFSA that has a line inside of that environment. This would actually be semi-discrete supercells. And I'm curious, there is one more run that I'm very, very much looking forward to looking at here. And I really hope it doesn't screw everything up. That's the, where is it? That's the NSSL RN model run. And look at that. There's your morning complex. Although it's definitely a much more different scenario here. That's your morning complex. Way more different scenario. Vastly different. And I'm actually looking at the wrong day. I'm like, why doesn't this look right? That's the wrong day. I apologize. This is going to be your morning complex. There you go. Glad to see some agreement. I was worried there. I'm like, do we have like terrible agreement now? That's your morning complex. Same time, 3 a.m. Pushes off well off to the north. That would not even be a problem for morning convection hurting your environment. And then you just get a long tracked MCS or derecho. And guess what? Good news for us. We can look at the environment. And my word, it is the same theme. A volatile environment, this time in Wisconsin, not in Illinois like the other two runs. And there you go. Very crazy photograph. I might have pulled that a tiny bit too far north because that's not a lot of Cape. We'll go a little bit further to the south. There you go. Big elongated photograph. So, very common theme, y'all. Very common theme. I want to go back to the reflectivity, though, on that. And this is why I was a little bit surprised to not see a day 3 moderate. Although I do, it's that uncertainty, right? It's like, this definitely looks like moderate caliber, day 3 moderate caliber right here. But it's still day 3. A lot can change in the next 48 to 70 hours or so. But generally, the idea here is storms initiate discrete to semi-discrete and then congeal up into a likely derecho somewhere from southern Wisconsin down to central Illinois. That's the general idea. And a morning complex. And you may be wondering why. Like, why in the world is the main severe threat on this model run into just west of Milwaukee? But if we go to, like, the RFSA... That's the wrong one. The RFSA, the main threat is actually down here west of Chicago. And that's a pretty good difference there. You know, your main boundary difference there is about 50 miles or so. And that's all because of your morning complex of severe storms. That complex is more to the south on the RFSA, and the other model, the NSSL RN, it's a little bit further off to the north and also dies out quicker. So, yeah, right now, like I said, this looks like a day 2, day 3 moderate, maybe even a day 1 high, but there's plenty of time for that to change. It's 2026, man. We've had like 4 events that have looked like this, where it's like, yeah, this is like a day 3 moderate type event. And then by the time we get to day 1, it's a day 1 moderate. And some random temperature inversion at the 700 millibar kills the threat. And then we can go into Friday. This is the RFSA. And we want to do the 18Z, which shifted that convection south, and go into Friday, because I know Friday is going to be a pretty popular risk. And I think this model doesn't have a good hold on it. This actually has the main risk over here, right over my house. I'm cooked. And I don't think that will be the case. I think the main risk area will actually be focused in the northeastern US. I think this will be the main area to watch on Thursday. Or not Thursday, my bad, Friday. I don't think it will be back in my vicinity. But if we look at the SPC outlook for day 4 here, there is your slight risk. I do think they will extend this into my area. And they may even extend this as far south as southwestern North Carolina. I do think I will be included in a slight risk for severe weather. But I think if we get an enhanced risk on Friday, that's probably going to be more focused up here into the northeastern U.S. and the northern mid-Atlantic. At least from what I see right now. Main threat on Friday is definitely wind. It is for sure wind. Can't rule out a brief tornado or two and some isolated hail up to like an inch, inch and a half, but I think the main threat is going to be pretty much just wind. Yeah, but here's the thing. Not convinced on a moderate yet. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, if we go ahead and pull that back up, still getting used to weather front here, so bear with me. Make sure I'm on the newest run. I am. That morning slop fest, I wouldn't really call it like a morning slop fest or morning line of crap vection. This in itself is probably going to be a significant damaging wind threat. Then this in itself could produce a borderline derecho if it can survive long enough. Like the RFSA literally has this morning complex being a borderline derecho tracking from south of kind of south central Nebraska, northern Kansas, all the way till just west of Chicago. That's a borderline derecho right there. And then it has another primary line forming in eastern Iowa, tracking all the way to pretty much central Ohio, right in there. So even if the morning line does screw up the afternoon line, you still have such a favorable environment that I'm not fully convinced it won't be a big severe threat in of itself. Like, look at this. This is 9 a.m. and you've already got 2,000 to 3,000 CAPE out here for this morning line. And that's another reason why I think this morning line here actually could end up being very significant and maybe even surviving longer than what these models are portraying. We do have the HRRR 18Z. And something to note with that is if we take a look here, that is on par with a big day of severe weather. And it keeps that main complex off to the north. It doesn't track through like northern Illinois or central Illinois. That complex, it barely hits northern Illinois, okay. But it mainly stays in central Iowa, tracking into southern and central Wisconsin. And again, I'm curious, what are the wind speeds here? Again, look at that. 77 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts on that morning complex there. 90 mile an hour wind gusts at 7 a.m. in the morning here. 90 mile an hour wind gusts in the main risk area. And then you've got another day or another whole entire front to go through. This is, man, I'm telling you, this looks like the HRRR is gearing up for a derecho. Like, look at this. This reminds me of the type of convection I saw on December 15th, 2021 on the model runs. The 18Z 2 nights prior showed something similar to this, and then the 00Z showed a full-blown big derecho. I mean, that's just gearing up for a derecho run right there. You've got a huge positively tilted embedded shortwave trough trying to turn negative in the afternoon, and you've got a volatile environment of instability in front of that. A crazy, crazy amount of CAPE directly in front of where that main trough is. And if we look at the This is, mind you, again, this is 2 p.m. This is peak heating right here. You still have the entire half of the day to go of peak heating. And you're already at 4.5, 5,000 instability out here. This is 4.6 thousand instability. And you're already out to 364 0 to 3 kilometer SRH. A very curved hodograph here, although it's a little bit more, a little bit shrunk, a little bit smaller here, and that's because you haven't got the full support of your trough. You know, your trough is still back out into Iowa at this point. Your main trough is back out in here right now, not in that main open warm sector near Chicago. But yeah, here's your wind shear, and you could see, look at your wind shear over here. This is not wind shear, I apologize. This is your wind shear. That's your wind shear. Still the highest wind shear, maybe a little west, closer to Cedar Rapid here. And you can see you've got more curvature on that particular one. A lot more curvature on that in the mid and lower level. A lot more in the lower level compared to back out in Chicago. But not a lot of 3 cape on this. So this is like right where your front's going to be. But unfortunately, we don't have any more run on this HRRR. And I don't disagree with the NAM 3K here. Look at the 700 millibar. Yeah, what I'm trying to spot here is a trough in front of the trough. And I want to see that on the RFSA. Version 1, 18Z. This is your 700 millibar, and I'm looking for something like this that could spark a confluence band in front of the main trough. Like that. There you go. Like that. And that, I think that's too far east of the main environment, but you get the point. As that most favorable environment forms close to 4 or 5 p.m., we might have the potential for a violent tornado here on Thursday. If we can get a 700 millibar sneaky little confluence band or something in front of that main trough. But man, that is one of the most impressive 700 millibar loops I've seen this year. I mean, you're looking at a line, multiple lines of severe weather from central Nebraska at 3 a.m. all the way until almost western Pennsylvania here at 5, 6 a.m. the next day. I mean, that is almost 1,000 miles there worth of a very significant 700 millibar shortwave. And the RRFSA, again, shows that actually coming to fruition with, look at that, multiple lines stretching from central Nebraska all the way through up until Ohio. That entire area. You can even see it actually stretching into eastern Ohio. But that main swath, I mean, like I said, I think we're going to get a moderate in this area. I really do. That's generally the area I circled earlier, too. Broyles is shaking right now. I want to see, I thought Caleb mentioned moderate wording from the SPC here. An MCS may be ongoing in the vicinity of eastern Nebraska and southwestern Iowa on Thursday ahead of this feature. And the aforementioned cold front. A very moist air mass will remain in place across the Midwest. Upper 60s, lower 70 dew point. Strong destabilization will be possible. Upwards of 4,500 joules per kilogram of instability. Re-intensification or redevelopment of morning convection is possible with this activity as it encounters the instability gradient from eastern Iowa into northern Illinois and lower Michigan. Favorable vertical shear profiles will support supercells and Boeing segments capable of significant wind gusts, large hail with more discrete convection, and strong tornadoes through the afternoon, centered on eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, far southern Wisconsin, and perhaps as far east as the lower as southern, lower Michigan, and northern Indiana. With time, so they're hinting at a second area here. That's the first complex. The first complex could continue beyond what models are currently hinting at, with strong tornadoes, significant wind, and very large hail. With time, additional convection will develop along the cold front behind that MCS from central Illinois to southwestern Missouri. Very large hail, damaging wind gusts will be the main hazards with this activity as it spreads east-southeast across the Ozarks and towards the lower Ohio Valley through the evening. And then they talk about the southern plains. So, yeah, destructive winds appear likely, which if you don't know, destructive winds is 80 miles per hour or greater. So 80 plus mile-an-hour winds likely. And they're really hinting at 2 MCSs here, which kind of surprises me that they don't put a moderate, really. Because if you think about it, this basic logic here, if you have one big wind gust storm come in and then a second one, well, that's going to like double your wind gust. If you have one line that comes in and the second line's even stronger than the first and both of them are destructive wind gusts, you're probably going to end up with a moderate risk type event. Most likely. And again, it's fairly easy to verify a moderate risk for damaging winds. It's fairly easy. Especially on a setup like this, it should be extremely easy. Friday, I kind of want to wait to talk about Friday. I'd like to get through tomorrow's event before I talk too in depth on Friday. But I don't agree with the RRFSA. I wonder if what the NSSL has here for Friday. Oh, it doesn't go out far enough. So, yeah, but this is a very substantial setup in my opinion. Like I said, probably one of the best setups I've seen this year. We'll see if it holds though. We've had, I think, only 2 setups like this have looked this good on day 3. And that was that moderate risk across this area down in here we had earlier this year. And then this Thursday. Day 5 slight. Yeah, we do have a day 5 slight. We talked about that in yesterday's live stream. So you got a heads up on that if you weren't really paying close attention to the weather. We highlighted this area, although I was thinking a little bit further to the south with this. We really pointed out like this area and here for the greatest severe weather on Saturday, but very similar to what the SPC has. If we take a look at that here, now we'll have to use lower resolution models because this is 5 days out. The NAM might barely get to Saturday. Nope, the NAM actually doesn't even get to Friday afternoon. Let's go to the GFS then. This is the GFS on Friday and now Saturday. And you can see a tiny little itty bitty shortwave right there. That little kink in the jet stream. That's all it takes in June. That's all it takes in June, because in June, typically, you're going to have a lot of CAPE, and there you go. That's all it takes. You're going to have a lot of instability in June most of the time, unless you have a high pressure that's forcing that back into the Gulf and into the Caribbean. But all it takes is a tiny little itty-bitty forcing mechanism embedded inside of that belt of flow. And then, boom, you've got severe weather. I'm curious on precipitation type here. Yeah, this definitely paints more to the south of what the SPC has. That's kind of more of where we highlighted yesterday. The SPC has their slight risk, in my opinion, a tiny bit too far to the north at the moment. Let's go look at CSU Severe. See what CSU Severe has for these stretches of severe weather. Here's day 1 today. Okay, well, it has almost a 50% hail probability. That's most likely not going to verify. It has a 15% tour, almost a 20% tour for North Dakota, and almost a 44% wind risk for today. So very high prob on that. For tomorrow, you can actually see this is the new updated one. This is the old, this is the new. So on the newer one, it actually completely removed that very high hail threat. Tomorrow, it does have a 15% tour risk in northern Wisconsin. Shift that about, oh, I don't know, 100 miles south, and I'll agree. I don't know why this risk is so far to the north. I really don't. I have no idea why it's that far to the north. That's CSU for you. And the main wind risk, shift that. That actually is a high risk for wind on CSU, by the way. Or rather, moderate. My bad. Moderate. Yeah, moderate. Shift that about 50, 70 miles south, and I'll agree with that too. But it looks like CSU's too far north on Thursday. Wait. That's Wednesday. My bad. That's tomorrow. I apologize. So never mind. That tornado risk is actually a little bit more on par. That's Wednesday for tomorrow. What I was looking at is this date right here. But that's when it ends. So for tomorrow, yeah, I could get behind that. That tour risk still, I think, might need to be shifted. Maybe not 70 miles south, because now it's tomorrow, not Thursday. Shift that probably 20, 30 miles south. I'd agree with it. This is Thursday, and this is very screwed up. I don't disagree much with the tornado risk. The placement of that tornado risk, I don't really disagree too much with. However, I definitely think CSU is going to end up with a 10% tour over Illinois at some point. And then there's the wind risk, which I think is too far to the east. I believe our main wind risk on Thursday, it is going to include that area, but I also think it should be further off to the north and further off to the west as well. And then what I'm really interested in is Friday here. Does it have it for Friday? Friday, it has the main risk in Virginia and West Virginia. Doesn't paint as high of a picture into New York there on Friday. And then Saturday, I'm curious if it goes... Yeah, look how far south it is on Friday. The SPC is like up in here for Friday. But I think this is a little bit more correct. I agree with more of a Kansas day on Saturday at the moment. Actually, here it is side by side. You can see the SPC is more into Iowa, not as far into Kansas as CSU. So, yeah, let's switch to... Let's see here. What else can we look at? Here's the FV3. Let's go to, this is tomorrow. Gracious day. I mean, what else did I expect? Yeah, it just has a huge tornado outbreak. Like I said, I think tomorrow is trending away from derecho potential and higher in wind potential. Most likely higher in tornado potential tomorrow. And the reason for that is it's not as strong of a trough, and it's not as quick moving as a trough on Thursday. Wednesday, being tomorrow, is a little bit slower. You could see that's your trough that's going to fire off severe weather tomorrow, right? And it doesn't move very, very quick here. If we go back, we're gonna do 00Z, for example. We're gonna go 8 p.m. So we're gonna just try to trace that back. So 8 p.m. the maximum is roughly, your maximum is gonna be in northern Minnesota. And we track that back to 8 p.m. prior. That's gonna come from probably somewhere in here. So if we look, that's about 900 miles in 24 hours. Now let's compare that to Thursday, which even if Thursday's is slower, the biggest thing is Thursday is going to have a stronger trough. So Thursday at 8 p.m. Oh man, it's not going to go out far enough. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to switch models and do this again. Let's go back to Wednesday. Let's mark that. This is the RFSA, your jet maximum up there. Trace that back. Again, it's going to end up somewhere in here. Might be a little bit longer than that, so we'll roughly just say 800 miles on that. And then we're going to pull this out further to 8 p.m. on Thursday. And look how far this is, man. This one's going to be in what? I think this is going to be up in here is where that primary shortwave is, even though your maximum jet streak is probably in Wisconsin and Illinois, where that main bowling ball shortwave goes is into Canada at 8 p.m. on Thursday. And look how much further that's going to go, dude. That starts way back here. That's 1,300. That is 500, roughly 500 more miles over 24 hours for Thursday's trough compared to tomorrow's trough. That could also mean Thursday has a considerably higher tornado threat potential, depending on if it's discrete or not, which I don't think we'll see a very large discrete mode on Thursday. But we could, like I said earlier, if we do get a shortwave in front of that main shortwave, that could promote some discrete activity in front. So, very complex setups for severe weather on tap for the next few days here, but overall, very significant. And this is the RFSA, and you can see for tomorrow, let's just go to the HRRR. And it does look like we're trending away from that derecho and more towards a semi-discrete to sloppy severe threat tomorrow. So I think our tor threat's a little bit higher tomorrow than we originally were thinking, and I think our wind threat is downtrended a bit. How's our current radar look like? Because I feel like we've been hearing alerts every 5 seconds here. Starting to see some more severe storms pop up in North Dakota. Still tornado warned in Canada. And then a bunch of severe still popping up down here. New tornado watch in Nebraska. That's moderate across the board, literally. 50-30, 50-50, 50-50. Moderate across the board on that one. But that's your main tornado watch for today. We'll go to your newest HRRR. Your 21Z. And even though this doesn't look very significant, which was the case with yesterday's, or no, the case with the day before yesterday's MCS, we're likely to still see very significant wind gusts. I don't think we will be seeing 100 or 113 mile-an-hour wind gusts like yesterday, but I do think we'll have the risk for upwards of 90 miles per hour embedded in some of these storms here. The HRRR looks like it's going to push 80, but I don't see any 90s at the moment. Oh, there's an 82. But I'm not seeing any 90s, so upwards of 90 mile-an-hour wind gusts. But look at all the wind, man. I mean, this thing's going to stretch from the border of Canada and North Dakota all the way down into western Nebraska. So if you're wondering why they connected that enhanced risk, if you were looking earlier this morning, the SPC had a enhanced down in here, and then the primary enhanced was up here. And if you're wondering why they connected those two and extended this one further south, that's why. Because we're going to have this line that pushes through. And look at all the wind, man. I mean, you literally could see 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts from up here closer to the low all the way down back into Oklahoma and Texas. Like, look at that. This is at 10 p.m. Now, obviously, this whole thing won't be considered the derecho or MCS. It's probably going to be, I'd have to imagine the main area is going to be this right in here. That's going to be your main region. Right in here is where I expect the worst of your MCS / derecho potential today. Right in that vicinity. And I mean, this continues for hours on end, y'all. This is 3 a.m. and you still have severe wind gusts of 60 miles per hour here at 3 a.m. But the peak of this is for sure. Here you go. This is 3 a.m. My bad. Still 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts at this point. I mean, man. Whoa. This is at midnight, 101 mile an hour, 107 mile an hour. That is the highest portrayed wind gusts I have seen out of the last few days in the U.S. We did have one higher than this in Canada, portrayed by the HRRR, but not in the U.S. That is at 11 o'clock. That's crazy. Our newest HRRR is rendering in right now. Curious if that continues. Yes, it does. This is the newest one. That has 104, 105 mile an hour wind gusts right there. Wow. Very, very significant. They probably should have pulled a PDS severe watch, but the tornado threat is 10 hatched, so I assume that's why they kept it a Tor watch and didn't do a PDS severe thunderstorm watch. But yeah, I'd have to imagine this is going to be a particularly dangerous night for significant severe weather. And it's already starting to kick off out here in western Nebraska. That's the start of one of your probably big wind bags tonight that could track from western Nebraska all the way up into Minnesota. Yeah, that tornado warning in Canada does look pretty significant. Pretty strong area of rotation there. Good hook echo. Good inflow slot. Inflow notch there. So, yeah, but we could see a strong tornado or two up here in Canada along that warm front. I don't see anything on CC. It is a lower resolution because Canada's radars aren't as good as the US. But I don't see any big CC there. Here's your nationwide radar again. Again, this is probably the start of our main line of significant severe weather for today. But you can see we have another line down in here that's already going. A line in here that's starting to go. And then this line that's starting to go, and some storms firing there too. So we have multiple lines of significant severe weather tonight. I would not one bit rule out a moderate risk here in 2 hours. I think today should be moderate. I would not by any means rule out a moderate risk tonight. Caleb, I've been using that for months, man. We used it on. I haven't used it much on stream because I haven't paid for the full subscription, but I'm thinking about using that. I think that might be better than any weather app out there. And I mean, I could use that for so many things. It's just a little bit more complex to use. Yeah. I'm probably going to do a discussion in the Discord server. I'll probably make my own outlook for Thursday tonight. I'll probably put out my own outlook in the Discord server. So if you haven't joined that, you want to. This is not extremely active. I'm not very good at chatting in there. I really need to get better at that. But some of you guys are keeping it alive for me. I really appreciate it. That should be the third link in the description, if it's still the same. And I'll probably write up a whole discussion on that the best I can. Because Thursday looks pretty significant. I don't do it too often, and normally I keep it to myself, but I'll probably put that out on Discord only. I wouldn't dare put it out on Twitter. I would be flamed on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, I've been issuing outlooks personally and sending them towards Lucky for a while. I've had some bad underperformances. I will say that moderate risk in St. Louis absolutely demolished me. That was probably the biggest underperformance I've ever had. And obviously the SPC missed it too, but I mean, that was crazy. Very crazy event. Thankfully for all the right reasons, because it was crazy and memorable because it was so, we were expecting so much and so little happened. If I'm not mistaken, we had a random SIG tour in Arkansas later in the day, but definitely didn't verify our PDS tornado watch or the long tracked violent tornado potential. I would support a moderate today. I don't think I'll do a full discussion for today, but I'll do one for a day. I'll make a day 2 outlook for technically day 3. The question is, am I going to wait for 00Z runs to come in or not? I'm curious here. Curious with this area. Real quick, I want to check this region on the RRFSA. Caleb, I just want to check. Did you join the Discord server, or are you not allowed to have Discord? That's at, what time is that? 9 a.m.? Hmm. Interesting. Caleb the moderator. Your name's Caleb too? Doesn't surprise me. We've had a lot of Calebs on this channel. I think we've had 4 or 5 Calebs on this channel. They just upgraded this severe thunderstorm for 70-mile-an-hour winds now. Out here in North Dakota. Welcome to the stream, Legacy, by the way. I know you've been in the stream for a long time. I just forgot if I welcomed you, and I kid you not, I was thinking about it for like 3 hours this morning. I'm like, did I welcome Legacy to the live stream yesterday? Because I feel like sometimes I'm not paying enough attention to chat. That bro says Colorado. Is that legit? Or is that thing tripping? Sometimes it seems like it will repeat warnings. Oh, that was legit. We'll have to see if it breaks. Sometimes it will, the most common thing is it repeats warnings. Oh, I see what you mean at the top. Look at the top. That thing says 0 severe warnings. Now 2. That's definitely broken. We do not have 2 severes. How many severes do we have? Let's see. This says 22 severes. We're at 22 severe thunderstorm warnings right now. So add another 2 to that and it'd be legit. 0 tornado warnings, unless you're including Canada, which is 1. But in the US, 0 tornado warnings and 23 severes. We just got a new one. This one apparently newly issued here for Underwood in North Dakota. Even though I swear that was there just a minute ago. But that's new, apparently. And look at the hail on this. I'm actually shocked we're getting a good hail threat. I'm very surprised by that. Yeah, there's nothing I could do about that overlay, by the way. It's just going to have to be wrong. I could just get rid of it for now if I really wanted to. But just know we're actually at 23 severes. What are the chances of a day 2 moderate? A morning moderate, if you want a percentage, I'll do it for fun. I say there's about a 50% chance that SPC does a morning day 2 moderate and like a 80% chance they do a afternoon day 2 moderate. That's the percentage I'd give it. I think tomorrow we'll end up with a day 2 moderate for Thursday. Most likely for wind alone. We'll have to see how the confluence bands looks, but who knows, we could end up with a day 1 moderate for Tor as well. In 383 days when I'm 18, I'll have Discord, though. I mean, better 383 days than never, right? At least you'll get it eventually. And appreciate that. I wish I appreciated my parents keeping me off of social media as long as they did. I really wasn't allowed on it until like YouTube and stuff. I didn't really get to do any of that stuff till 13. And I didn't start TikTok, I think, till 16. And of course, now I'm very inactive on there and I uninstalled the app because it was taking up way too much of my time. Day 1 high for wind could happen on Thursday. I think it could happen. Will it happen? That's another story. But I think it could happen, yeah. There's definitely the chance for a bust on Thursday. The best way that could happen is if the morning MCS is more to the south than expected, and because of that, it wipes out the open warm sector. That's the best opportunity for a bust. I have to imagine this is looking way more crazy IRL than on radar. Probably about to get a strong to intense tornado to drop down here in Canada. Is this in Manitoba? Is this Manitoba? Is that the right Providence? I gotta go look on this real quick. Manitoba, see? Told you I'm learning my Canada providences. I told you I'm learning them. But yeah, is this like a very populated area? Not sure how you say that. I'm not very informed on how you pronounce stuff in Canada and all their provinces. I know 3 main provinces. I know Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, actually 4, Quebec. I can't remember what this one is. And I have 0 idea what these are, if they even are provinces. I have absolutely no idea. what these are up here. But I know Saskatchewan, Manitoba, I forgot these two, and I have zero clue what these are. I have a friend who lives in Ontario, so yeah, if he's watching this live stream, he's going to be very disappointed in me. But at least I know 3 provinces. It's better than none. British Columbia, so it goes Manitoba, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, and then this one, I feel like it started with an A. Not sure though. Because I swear I remember tracking some winter in that area. Alberta. Tornado apparently on the ground on this storm in Canada. I'll go pull up that chaser on my end. Man, these chasers have been everywhere the last couple of days, man. I feel bad for them because we've had chasers literally go from Canada to Colorado to Canada in the span of like 40 hours. Which is almost borderline impossible, but they've made it happen. Looks like it's already lifted. So we had a brief, weak, tiny tornado touch down here in Canada. This is in southern Manitoba, southeast Manitoba in Canada. And it's still attempting to touch down. There's still a very large, rapidly rotating wall cloud. But it was just a brief little tiny tornado, touched down and then lifted, not but within a minute. Let's go back down to Nebraska here. Again, the overlay at the top is broken right now. There's actually 22 severe thunderstorm warnings in the U.S. We have a report of 73 mile-an-hour winds and 72 mile-an-hour winds here on our severe thunderstorm that is making its way through Hay Springs and Rushville in northwestern Nebraska. Make sure you are away from doors and windows and close to your safe spot, or maybe even in your safe spot, just because those winds have been confirmed to actually exceed 70 miles per hour in some instances. And we'll go back down to Kansas here as well. Just deny that call. Love spam calls. This is in La Crosse, Kansas, Hays, Kansas. 60 mile an hour winds, 0.75 inch hail there. Spearville, 60 mile an hour winds, 0.88 inch hail there. So just some ordinary severes. I expect these severes to become a lot worse though over the next hour or so. I expect this. Go ahead and switch to this real quick. This area right in here should rapidly increase in additional severe weather. And probably wind gusts upwards of 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour in this region. And there's a new severe. Let's go to that. Just saw it pop up, and there it is, the bottom of your screen. That's actually the one in North Dakota. This one is in South Dakota. So that's for 60 mile an hour winds and 1 inch hail there. Yep, very, very big wind threat for sure starting up. And here's the HRRR on College of DuPage here. And I mean, it's going to be a very crazy night, man. And unfortunately, it is night. Not midday, but very, very crazy nighttime wind gusts. Like I said, we could even have an isolated instance of winds a little over 90 miles per hour. Still a good hook there, but it looks like that notch is closing a little bit. You could see that inflow notch right in there. See how it's a lot more narrow now? Might be a sign that this is beginning to occlude and die out. A new significant severe for 1.75 inch hail, 70 mile an hour winds just issued out here for Dodge in western North Dakota. And look at that. That is a hail spike right there. A very significant hail spike. 74 dBz. So this is likely producing, I wouldn't be shocked if it's producing over 2-inch hail with this particular storm, especially with such a significant hail spike there. We also have a random severe south of Legacy right now. Legacy, you're getting a lot of lightning and rain. Is your power still on? If this was hitting me, my power would have went off like 30 minutes ago before it even started raining. But there's a severe in Manchester, south central Tennessee. I think we just got a severe, yeah, for this storm right here in Elbridge, Illinois. Where 60 mile an hour winds, 1-inch hail. So we'll continue to watch these storms as they push to the northeast. I'm not too sure why they didn't expand this tornado watch a county or two to the west. Because these storms are likely going to stay severe well outside of and then eventually well into that tornado watch. So not sure why when they issued that tornado watch a while ago, they didn't include at least these two counties here. Let's go to satellite. Weatherfront has really good satellite. I apologize for the black screen every second or so there. It's me trying to get used to Weatherfront. Weatherfront has really good satellite. And this is your chasers. Those tiny little dots, those are your chasers right there. And you can see you've got chasers out here in Canada. A lot of them were sitting in the Brandon area, and you could see the train of them start pulling eastward as that supercell started getting tornado warning and started firing. Now there's a good chunk on this storm right here. Good chunk staying with that storm. And then back in North Dakota, let's see where your chasers really started at. Looks like Minute, right around that area. Yeah, the bulk of your chasers were right in here. And you can see most of them dive south, north of Bismarck for this activity here. Which, I mean, if there is a chaser out here, hopefully these chasers out here aren't expecting much of a tornado threat today. I really don't think we'll see many tornadoes with this stuff. I wouldn't rule that out later tonight, but it's going to be just that tonight, when chasers are definitely not going to be able to see anything because it will be dark. That's when I wouldn't rule out a tornado or two, maybe even one strong. Let's go to the newest HRRR 22Z here, just to kind of show you what I'm thinking here. I think if we do get a tornado threat, it will be closer to around 10 p.m. to midnight back up in here. And I just want to see that environment to see if it looks decent. And yeah, you could see it looks pretty decent. And I don't think we'll get much of a tornado threat before 10 p.m. But 10 p.m. to like midnight, I think we'll have a good chance for a tornado or two, maybe even one strong. That looks to be the peak tornado threat, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. And then I still wouldn't rule out a tornado or two even at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in northwestern Minnesota. Go check this here. Look at StormNet for StormNet's tornado risk. StormNet likes the storm in Bismarck. down in here. Storm southwest of Bismarck. That's the storm StormNet likes for a little tornado potential here in about an hour once it gets into Bismarck. And then StormNet really doesn't have high probabilities. Its highest probability after that is about 10:30, 11 p.m. is its highest tornado probability. And it has it right up in here. And StormNet does not have very high tornado probabilities for tomorrow either. So obviously it's thinking that the convection tomorrow will stay messy enough to where the tornado threat's not all that high. I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't rule out a moderate for tornadoes tomorrow if it looks like that convection will be a little bit more organized and not as elevated. But only time will tell on that. I don't think it will go moderate for Tor, but like I said, it might. Caleb, I've attempted to get chasers many, many times, but now there's a very, very well-known to select weather YouTubers who have signed contracts to chasers. And those contracts are actually binded, so those chasers can't break those contracts because it's legally binded to that YouTuber. So there's a few independent chasers who will let you use their feed for a couple $100, but I've reached out and some of them are literally like 1 to 2K per live stream, and I can't afford that. And I can't afford to pay a chaser $1,000 to $2,000 per day. So we were absolutely blessed enough to get Connor as he was starting his chasing career for a year. And that was absolutely insane. We were using him as many opportunities as we could because we knew it wouldn't last forever. So I would love to be able to, you know, a lot of people call it like collaborating. I'd love to collaborate with a chaser where I use their feed and shout them out every time I use that. But unfortunately, that's not how it goes. And I understand that. I don't purposely try to reach out to chasers and ask for their content for free because I understand that a lot of these chasers are out there not only for passion, but also because that's their job too. And they have to make money off of that. They can't just give it out for free because it costs literally tens of thousands of dollars per year in order to be a full-time chaser. Sometimes, depending if you're chasing on a global scale, you're going to get into the hundreds of thousands. But yeah, I've kind of settled back. I really haven't reached out to any chasers in the last 6 months or so. I tried my fair share. I tried about 10 chasers, and like 8 of those were behind that legal contract. So I attempted. But unfortunately, that's just the way the community's gone. Which, like I said, that helps out the chasers for sure, because they're being paid by people who are, at this point, those two are multi-millionaires at this point. But for smaller streamers, and like this channel here, this isn't really a small channel anymore. We are over 12K. Even for me, it is impossible for me to compete with that. And there's smaller channels that are literally... literally like 500 subscribers, and they can't compete. It's impossible to grow your channel. It really is. So, I mean, if you like weather, you want to do this, I recommend it for sure. But if you're trying to make a living out of it, it's impossible now. We've got 2 people who are dominant in this community, and those 2 people are gonna stay dominant. And yeah, it's my little brother, Caleb. He found something in a game, and he's very pumped, so he's going around and screaming. That's why I smiled for a second. That's my little brother. He found something fun in a game that he can spawn forever. All happy screams. Not bad. Well, Weather Warrior, I might use your feed. I appreciate that. And there's some smaller chasers who I might retry to connect with again to see, but it's hard. This community has gotten very, very, I don't know how to put it, but I guess I could just say strict over the last 4 years. It's not. I'm gonna be honest. I've been a part of the community for 6 years, and it's not a good community. It's really not. There is a select few who are absolutely awesome, but you've got a lot that are money hungry, a lot that are just in it for the money, a lot of it who are just in it for the fame, and a lot of people who are extremely immature and will call you out on anything and cause drama and try to ruin your life on the internet. And it's very, very, very competitive, a very competitive field. And honestly, like if someone was into weather, I wouldn't really 100% recommend it. Like if you were into weather, I would say keep it as a passion, honestly, unless now if you're going to go into the NWS, that's different. I would recommend probably that's going to be the main thing is NWS. If you're a big, big person on weather, go for the NWS, go for the Storm Prediction Center, go forecast for that. Unfortunately, the budget cuts and all that stuff is absolutely atrocious, but that's your best bet is go work for the NWS and the Storm Prediction Center. Broadcast meteorology is starting to die out across the world at this point for TV. If you're looking for broadcast where you want to be in front of a camera, it's very difficult. Like I said, you can try YouTube, but it's so competitive. It's very, very hard. I've been in the same situation where I want to kind of go all in for the NWS, but then I look at the budget cuts, I look at the pay, I'm like, that's barely even livable. I look at YouTube, it's so competitive. I definitely don't make enough to live off of YouTube, and it's so strict, and people are so down talkative to you. It's not good, and that's why I've stepped back from the community this year. I've stepped back from it, but I still love weather. I've just kind of pushed it a bit more back towards a passion and less of a job, and that's made me enjoy it more. I've explained it to my friends. I said I'm on this is my little corner of the internet. I don't have a lot of people that I talk to about the weather outside of just you guys on the YouTube chat. I don't go and DM people about the weather that much. It's this little corner that I don't interact with a lot of people in the community because every time I do, it just doesn't end well. It's just gotten so bad. It really has. And now we have a lot more storm chasing movies coming out and games coming out. And even more people are getting into the field and it's getting more competitive. There's more drama, more competition, more problems, more storm chasers, more chaser convergence. And it's getting insane, dude. It's getting insane. And I know two YouTubers who have literally stepped back from the community and stopped. They're done with weather because of it. So it's getting rough. It is getting rough. Personally, think it's stupid because it should be more about saving lives and not more drama. And I mean, it's about saving lives 100%. That's what I'm here for. That's what, uh, unfortunately, a very select few people on the internet doing weather are for. But the vast majority of the community, if you do your own outlooks, they'll hate on you, they'll disagree with you, they'll start drama with you and try to tear down your name. If you go ahead and try to issue like two big YouTubers, they started now they're both going at it with their own their own advisories and whatnot, and they've been absolutely bashed for it, but they're still doing it. Why? Because it's still helping to get the word out about the weather. So even though those two people are kind of the reason why it's harder to get chasers and this field's more competitive, at least they're getting the weather out. Even if they are money hungry, and that's an if. I'm not accusing them of being money hungry. That's an if. Not trying to get on people's bad side here. At least they're getting it out to people, you know? At least they're still getting out the word of weather to millions of people. So it's mixed, you know, because you can overhype it and get a bunch of hate and drama, but at the end of the day, at least you're trying to get the word out about weather. But man, you will get a lot of haters for it. I mean, y'all can, if you guys have been a part of the community, even still today, it's a problem. But last year was insane for thumbnails, man. Felt like every minute I was on Twitter, I saw somebody calling out somebody's thumbnail. It was the big battle of the thumbnails over here. Everyone was being fussed at for any thumbnail they made. Brother Warrior, thank you for the $5 donation. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. I started my channel to save lives I chase so I can learn and enter the NWS later on. I've gained 4,000 subs in a year now. You got good things coming, TRG. I appreciate that. And 4,000 is crazy. That is already a huge goal right there. I saw it. It's like 90% of YouTubers 90% of YouTubers don't make it to 1,000 subscribers. So you're part of the 10% already. 10% biggest YouTube channels right there. And you're at 4,000, so you're probably in like the 8 percentile at that point. So even though 4,000 seems little, it's not. You gotta imagine 4,000 people in a field. That's how many people have subscribed to your channel. It's crazy. So keep going and follow your passion. Like I said, I think the NWS is really good. And shoot, if you're really good at YouTube, man, make videos on that. Make videos on how you're slowly going into the NWS and going into meteorology and learning about meteorology. And yeah, eventually at the end of it all, maybe you can start streaming on the side off of your NWS shifts. That could be like a whole thing right there where you just consistently do videos on how you're getting to the NWS and how you plan on it. I was about to say something, but I'm keeping that to me. Some YouTube strategy. I don't want to give it out because I have a bunch of people steal it. But it's very competitive, like I said. Even on these smaller channels like yours, you're a growing channel, not necessarily a small channel, a growing channel. You could upload a tornado video, and in this day and age, I have seen some S tier tornado footage, and they don't get more than 300 views. And it's crazy. So if you are chasing, don't expect to get higher viewership with the better storms. It seems like you're very passionate about the weather, so that's good. Me and Lucky, we've already lost thousands of dollars from storm chasing. So, you know, if you're in it for the money, that ain't gonna go well for you, man. But if you're not in it for the money and you're in it for a passion, do it for sure. And that's what passions are. Passions aren't technically made to make you money. A lot of people have different passions, like football can be passions, sports are passions, and those can eventually lead into money careers. But a lot of the times you're spending that money to have fun. That's what your passion is. And I know some people are like, if you join this chasing community, they're literally like, you're not going to make money, so don't even try. That's what a passion is, to have fun. It's to spend your money that you've earned on the side and to have fun. And what's the benefit? Well, there's a huge benefit. You have the chance to save lives from storm chasing. That is one of the best passions you can ever have. You have a chance to save lives with your passion. And that is huge. Not many passions have that opportunity. That's why me and Lucky want to get more out into the plains, more into areas that have been impacted, so we can try to help more. But at this point, you know, if there's a moderate risk, you've got like 1,000 to 2,000 chasers out there, and it's crazy. I've literally seen like 4 hours worth of traffic jams. So, like little local areas like here in North Carolina, Virginia, we don't get many setups, but the setups we do get, there ain't no chaser convergence. I've only met one storm chaser here in Virginia and North Carolina out of the 3 years I've been chasing here. Well, actually, I've been chasing for a lot more than that. In this particular area, 3 years, but I've been chasing for like 6 years. Yeah, the Midwest definitely has chaser convergence, but it's not as bad as the plains. Chaser convergence is horrible in the plains, all the way from northern central Texas, like right in here, all the way up to North Dakota. This entire area in here has horrible chaser convergence. If there's a good risk in this area, it's going to be covered by 1 to 2,000 chasers. And I know chaser convergence does get pretty rough in these areas, but it's not nearly as bad as the plains. So back to storm chasing again. Storm chasing's a passion. You're gonna lose money with it, but if it's something you enjoy and you love, do it. Like me and Lucky, we love storm chasing. We do it. We don't expect to make money off of it. It's a very fun passion, and also do it safely too. It is a dangerous passion. Remember that. Sometimes we can all get caught up in that, but it is a dangerous passion as well. If you're storm chasing, you're likely breaking the law. To be honest with you, really, in most of the US states, it's illegal to hold a phone while driving. Most of the time, you're going to be looking at screens unless you have a second driver, which is what I've done with me and my dad, and that's a tornado warning.
Tornado warning has been issued.
Me and my dad, me and Lucky as well, we pair up in one car so we don't have to drive illegally like that. So do note that. Try to get yourself a phone holder to where you're not holding your phone as much. That way you're not looking at your phone and trying to drive at the same time. And again, remember it is dangerous, so you got to try to. It's a lot of multitasking. Very, very valid tornado warning right here. You've got a good area of convergence coming together with significant damaging winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour here. And some outflow winds, outbound winds pushing in. And look at that. It's tightened up. This easily could produce a tornado at any given moment. And look at that. There is a hook echo. You could see your embedded supercell right in here with those just a little bit lower DBZ values right in that area. That's an area of convergence. So we are seeing the potential for a tornado to try and drop here right in that area. That's going to head up into Reagan in North... actually, this is all in Nebraska. I thought this was the border. This is southern Nebraska in Reagan into Axtell and Holdridge. Or Holdrig? Holdrig? Pronunciations, man. But yeah, very much a valid tornado warning there, so get to your safe spot. Just to zoom out on where this is, here's Nebraska right here. This is Kansas. You zoom in, it's not in Kansas. It's just north of the Kansas border. You got Alma, Nebraska, Campbell, Nebraska, Elwood. It's north of Alma, west of Campbell, southeast of Elwood. And it's going into just southwest of Kearney in southern Nebraska. And if there is a tornado on the ground, it would be just west of Reagan, right at the intersection of Highway 183 and N4. I don't know if that's the road name there, but it's right at that intersection of Highway 183 in southern Nebraska. And it would be literally right next to that intersection. Then it's going to head up here to Road 725, just off of Highway 183 in southern Nebraska, west-northwest of Reagan, south of Holdridge, or Holdrege. Whatever it is, man. If you're from this area, you know and can see the name I'm trying to pronounce and struggling with. 75-mile-an-hour wind report here from about 40 or a little under 40 minutes ago. From our severe storm warned for 70-mile-an-hour winds observed, 1.5-inch hail radar indicated. We'll probably get a new severe thunderstorm warning on this shortly as it goes up to the northeast. So we'll continue to watch that. We're going to go back to this tornado warning southwest of Kearney, Nebraska. That rotation a little bit broader. So we've got, this is what we call convergence. It's where we have winds that are going towards each other. We have red, which is winds going away from our radar, and we have that going towards an area where we have very strong inbound winds in the green, and then damaging inbound winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour there in the blue, and maybe even some wind gusts upwards of 80 here in the dark blue. So that's an area of convergence there. Those winds are coming together. Think of it like that. Convergence is winds coming together. So they're very close to each other. But it's not gate to gate. Gate to gate is where those pixels are right on each other, like this. This is gate to gate weak rotation, barely even rotation. If this area of convergence of dark blue and light blue gets together with this area of light and dark red, that would be a gate to gate area of strong rotation, and thus a strong tornado would be imminent. In this case, it's not gate to gate. So this is still a fairly broad area of rotation, but the area of rotation is strong. So if this can tighten up a bit and get more gate to gate, a strong tornado could occur heading up towards the north of Reagan in southern Nebraska. If not, if this doesn't come together and it doesn't produce a tornado, even in that case, we still have 70 to maybe borderline 80-mile-an-hour winds with this tornadic storm moving up into Reagan and surrounding areas in this tornado warned area. So a tornado could develop, and even if one doesn't, you're still looking at 60 to 75-mile-an-hour wind gusts moving into your area. So you need to be in your safe spot. And there's that extended severe thunderstorm warning. I just talked about them likely issuing 70-mile-an-hour winds, 1.5-inch hail here in northwestern North Dakota. So make sure you're away from doors and windows. Get indoors here at Glen Burn, Upham Towner. I need to read these towns in my head before I start saying them out loud. We got Glen Burn, Upham, and Towner. Man. Make sure you guys get away from doors and windows. And look at that. A very significant batch here of damaging winds. And guys, this could actually be 80 to 90-mile-an-hour winds here going into Sawyer. Very, very significant. Where is our radar in correlation to this? And it's very close to the radar. This is probably 90-mile-an-hour winds here moving into Sawyer, North Dakota. Or Sawyer, North Dakota. Very, very significant damaging winds there. 80 to 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I know the pixels come up as 100, but by the time those get to the surface, it's going to be a little bit less than that. So that's why I'm saying 80 to 90 for these pixels of 90 to 100. Just because by the time those winds from the mid-levels actually get down to the ground, it's going to translate from the 100-mile-an-hour winds up here down to like maybe 85 by the time it gets down to the surface. Still, wouldn't be surprised if they put a PDS severe thunderstorm warning on this. Again, going right into Sawyer in central North Dakota. Back to that tornado warning. You could see these winds aren't very tight yet. And this is more kind of evidence of a bookend vortex almost trying to happen here. Because you have these winds down in here. These winds are trying to surge out. And it's trying to push this thing outflow dominant. but you have a little indent in here. There's a little indent in your maximum reflectivity, and that's allowing for some winds to go into the storm. And it's right there. That's right where you have that area of rotation. But the biggest threat with this, we could see a tornado form, but this really, the highest threat is probably the widespread damaging winds here across Reagan and Huntley. Yeah, observed 70-mile-an-hour winds too. We just had a report not but about 11 minutes ago of 75-mile-an-hour winds confirmed. For the wind, it's velocity. For the rain, it's reflectivity. Yeah, here's a new update on that. And you could see still likely 80-mile-an-hour winds here happening over Sawyer, North Dakota. And even into Logan, probably 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds heading into Logan here in North Dakota as well. Let's see. We're going to go back to weather-wise here to look up this town. Zoom into that. Am I looking for an area of rotation in this region? Or are you just talking about the winds? If it's an area of rotation, I might have to pull out GR2. Let's see. Okay, so that's right on the northern end of that sphere. That's right there. The thing is, this is further from the radar, so those winds don't translate as well. When you're far from the radar, even though these winds look like they're 80, by the time they get to the surface, they literally could be 50. So it's hard to say exactly how strong those winds were. But considering that's moving into the 70-mile-an-hour severe, probably 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts with that. Thank you, Weather Warrior, for the $2 donation. Have you ever had a near-death experience chasing? No, thankfully. Not near-death experience. I had a close call in Reidsville, North Carolina a few years back. A PDS tornado warning was issued, and I was chasing it at night like an idiot. So this is probably 2 years into being a weather enthusiast. Not but probably like my 5th storm chase. And it was a PDS tornado warning, huge CC going right into Reidsville, North Carolina at night, driving towards it. And I realized it started getting way too crazy and I turned around. So if I continued down, yeah, that probably would have been a near-death experience, but I was smart enough to call that off and be like, nah, I'm not going into this. This thing's a PDS tornado warning, I'm turning around. I turned around, went home. Called it just like that. Because I'm like, if I see it, by the time I see it, it's already dark. It's going to hit me. So what's the point in being out here? I turned around and went home. Strong tornado heading right into a town that I'm very familiar with. Thankfully, it lifted before it did any very significant damage in Reidsville. I think it was rated a high-end or mid-tier EF1. Still, probably the strongest tornado I've chased. But I didn't get to see it. Because it was obviously dark. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to Weatherfront.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
Yeah. Is that literally right here where I was just about to call out because you guys in chat are talking about it? At first, I was thinking that could be a microburst or some sort of downburst that's causing debris to be lifted. That could be the case. But that's pretty consistent there. You could see on ZDR you have a good dropping. So there's definitely debris being lofted right in this area. Newest scan that shifts up to 79th Avenue going to the southeast. North, barely north of Sawyer. Either way, whether it be a tornado or damaging winds, it's debris. So there's either a tornado or very significant winds to the point where we're seeing debris on the radar from those winds. And it looks like those winds did die out on the newest scan. If we go back literally just one scan, the last few scans here, we were at about 60 miles per hour, moved up to 70, 80, and then at this point, we got close to probably 90 mile an hour winds here as it went through Sawyer. And it looks like that's when the CC got pretty big. As it moved from just south of Sawyer into Sawyer, and even right now, that CC is pretty notable. So, could have been a tornado, or could have just been damaging winds lofting some debris. If it is a tornado, it would be to the southwest of Norwich, north of Sawyer in North Dakota. Regardless, being your safe spot, that's either a tornado down or very significant damaging winds. Both of which are going to be life-threatening. We have another tornado warning down here in Holdridge. That's just what I'm going to call it. In southern Nebraska. Heading up towards Kearney. But like I mentioned earlier, it seems like these winds are pushing against the storm very strong. And that's creating this bowing shape, which is much more classic and way more of an indicator of an outflow dominant storm that's becoming a big wind threat and not so much a tornado threat. We still could get a brief tornado out of this southwest of Kearney in southern Nebraska, but I think the biggest problem is those wind gusts of 60 to 75 miles per hour. Let's see. Let's see if we got anything new over here. Let's see who's being canceled on Twitter today. I mean, what? Yeah, Twitter's still useful despite all the drama. I've gotten my feed pretty clear. It's only taken me 7 years to block all the drama, but I think I've about done it. You know you've done it too when you see random people talking about drama and you haven't seen one person actually tweeting about it. It's like there's been this whole drama that you've missed the last week, and then finally someone you follow talks about it. You're like, what? That's been happening for the last, 14 days? That's how you know you have the right people blocked and muted. Like I said, I just stopped interacting with the community. But again, not the entire community is bad. There's definitely some good people in the weather community, for sure. For sure. Every community has its bad apples. It just feels like the weather community has a little bit more bad apples than good ones. Look at all the lightning with this storm. I mean, holy crap. Ought to be like a lightning strike a second out here.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
We sure that's a new one? I have a feeling that's just a continuation of this. I doubt that's a new one unless... Oh, it is a new one. I thought that was just the program, being the program and doing the same warning twice. But no, it is a new tornado warning for this area of rotation. Very far from our radar. Heading up into Columbus. Out in far northwestern North Dakota. So, we are up to 3 warnings in the U.S., and I think 3 in Canada, which puts us at 6 tornado warnings overall. 3 in Canada, 3 in the U.S., and really none of these look very impressive. Again, I think this This actually might be turning into almost 80-mile-per-hour wind threat here for Minden, Nebraska. Less of a Tor threat. This newest one for North Dakota, central North Dakota, rather. I mean, I don't know how much of a tornado threat exists here. It's either we've either had a brief spin up tornado, or we're just continuing to get consistent damaging winds, maybe even pushing once again 80 to 90 miles per hour again in this area. So either way, you got to be in your safe spot, whether it be a weak tornado with the same type of wind speeds or micro bursts / down bursts of damaging winds upwards of 90 miles per hour. Both are destructive, both are life-threatening, and both of them require you to be in your safe spot. And then our very newest warning that just came in out here, that's probably, hey, I know that guy. That's probably why they issued in good part with this warning, because they know it's already discreet, it's not in the worst environment, and a storm chaser with a very credible background has reported a rapidly rotating wall cloud 1 mile to his west. And probably has a feed. I imagine he has a feed somewhere on social media that the NWS is watching. Because believe it or not, the Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service, both of them, will watch storm chasers actively. And some of them even watch coverage YouTubers. Like I know in some NWSs, I think they had... I won't say a channel name, but I know they had a different coverage YouTuber up in the background. ZeroZeroZ's coming in. Now that will be interesting. That'll be coming in about, what, 30 minutes? That's a very significant line. Very, very significant. Is that continuing to uptrend? I wouldn't necessarily say it's uptrending. It's just a very large, significant line. I almost want to say moderate worthy. Wouldn't surprise me if they go moderate. It really wouldn't. Here in an hour. I really do think we have a developing, strong MCS here. Our northern side is already well defined here. You could see this is the far northern side of it, closer to the low pressure. And then we have the kind of middle portion of it. Then we have kind of the southern tail end of it down in here. And then eventually they all could connect. We literally could have a line that stretches from southern Saskatchewan all the way down into like Nebraska, maybe even further than that. But I think our worst damaging winds will be with this stuff in here as it goes up into Minnesota. Much larger area. If I had to give you a big circle, I'd go all the way down to central South Dakota, all the way up into northeastern Minnesota, and then back up into Canada. That's where our greatest threat for severe weather exists today. Mainly tonight. This severe threat's just now getting going. I don't think our main peak will be till about 10 p.m. I think our main peak will be from 10 p.m. to probably 1 a.m., maybe 2 a.m. This is 10 o'clock. I think that's when our peak starts. 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., maybe even to 3 a.m. I think from about 10 p.m. to 2 or 3 a.m. will be our peak. Fully nocturnal severe threat. So we'll keep monitoring these active tornado warnings. Let's go take a look at them again. Again, this is very close to the radar. It's not like we're scanning very far up. We're scanning just a few hundred feet up. And we're reading about 75 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts here on our radar. In between Norwich and Granville. So get to your safe spot if you're around that area. You're in a tornado warning, but the main concern is actually the damaging winds associated with the tornado warning storm. Down to 17%. Better charge it. We've gotten a lot more tornado warnings in like the last 10 minutes or so. We actually just lost one, thankfully, so we're actually back down to 2. But yeah, I think they should upgrade this to 80 probably at this point. We'll see if we get any reports of 76 plus mile-an-hour wind gusts, but that's a probable storm that is likely producing a probable wind gusts of 75 to 80 miles per hour. So if you're in Minden, Norman, Hartwell, Upland, I would be getting away from doors and windows and probably to your safe spot, especially Minden. This is going to go right into downtown Minden, southern Nebraska. Weather Warrior Gracious, thank you for another $5 donation. Greatly appreciated. I love the weather community. The good side of it is awesome, but I hate how toxic it is in social media. Can't stand the hate on small creators. And I mean, that's just social media in general. If you've ever been on social media like you guys are now, but especially as you go towards the really Twitter's the worst, but even on Instagram and TikTok, it's still pretty rough. It's a lot of toxic people, and in the weather community, that just seems to be magnified quite a bit. Probably has to do with the fact that a lot of people are missing out on tornado threats. Some jealousy sprinkled in there. But yeah, that's probably one of my most concerning areas right now in the U.S. It's that pocket of damaging winds upwards of probably 80 miles per hour going into Minden, southern Nebraska. And probably a very close tie to that would be this region in here, now north of Norwich and barely northwest of Granville, North Dakota. Those are the two main areas I'm watching right now in the U.S. Let's go back up to Canada, southeastern Manitoba. Yeah, southeastern Manitoba. This is a recycling supercell. It's undergoing mergers right now. It could become one big fat supercell here in about 30 minutes. You can kind of see how it's merging with storms on its flank, its western flank. And then the primary supercell is right in here. So this could become a big tornado threat in about 30 minutes for this area right in here in southeastern Saskatchewan. Or, my bad, Manitoba. I have a tornado warning here in southwestern Manitoba. Good area of some rotation there. Looks like that could be a little bit on the contaminated side, though. TikTok is a hate app. No disagreement there. I used to post, I did a frequent, like, 2 months where I was posting often on there. SPC site just went down. It's been having a little bit of problems. I don't know if that's just me, but that's the SPC site's down right now because that's not popping up. Yeah, it's just, I just pulled it up on a different browser and look, it's just blank. Oh, there it goes. Hey, look, it just appeared up on my face cam too. Maybe just a little bit of Wi-Fi issues on my end. And this looks like it's probably going to do the same here. Probably going to turn into an MCS. We might we might have like 3 different MCSs, like an MCS down here, an MCS here, and an MCS up in here too. This would probably be your main MCS though, but we could have like 3 or 4 different MCSs that merge. Again, if you don't know, an MCS is just a line of severe thunderstorms. It's a mesoscale convective system. Just a line of damaging winds. Sometimes Tornado Talk makes Twitter look like a sunny tropical beach. You know what? Yeah, sometimes it does, but honestly, TikTok has more of the misinformation, but Twitter has more of like the drama where people are hating on each other. From what I've experienced, the few days I uploaded on TikTok, I got a few comments that were mean, but I reached a lot of people, so that was to be expected. And on Twitter, it's just like, I feel like if I didn't have comments disabled, it'd be like every single post. I can find a lot more drama and stuff on Twitter, but I often find more misinformation on TikTok, at least on the weather side of things. See you in 20 minutes, Legacy. I'll probably just stay live for the time being. Like I said, I don't like to cover late, but it's not really that late right now. Might as well watch the 00Z HRRR probably come in here. Well, that's a little bit late. I don't know if I'll watch it come in, but I don't know how much of it I will watch come in. But we'll watch some of it. They continued this severe for 70-mile-an-hour winds radar indicated in southern Nebraska. But again, you can see how this wind is, this line is like pushing out. It's like surging outwards, right? That's a big sign for a very large damaging wind threat. Now, the good news is the northern extent of that seems to have weakened. See how the inflow, it was right on where the red is, but now that's kind of broken apart, and it's a lot, it looks a lot weaker on this northern side up in here. It looks a whole lot weaker up here. So hopefully that's a sign that this is going to be on a weakening trend, but still for the time being, I think we could still get wind gusts upwards of 75, 80 miles per hour as this goes into Minden, southern Nebraska. The good news is this might go just south of Minden, since that northern part has kind of fallen apart recently. I think our day 3 outlook is conservative. Yeah, I think the SPC has gone more conservative, but that's what the SPC does. The SPC is typically conservative. Little surprised they didn't go at least 45% SIG 1 for the overall probabilistic outlook. Yeah, see this bowing? So you have like a double indent. We'll have to watch that indent for a tour potential, but I don't think our environment's that great down here. So we'll have to watch that indent right there. That indent is where the wind gusts are the highest, and it looks like that northern side is a little bit weaker now, so that's really good. But that southern side in Minden looks significant. Let's see. I expected a 45 SIG 1. I didn't really expect it until I started looking at models, because to be honest with you, I haven't really been on top of my weather model game today until I went live. And then, yeah, I was pretty surprised they didn't do a 45 SIG 1.
A new PDS severe thunderstorm warning.
It's probably for this. I'd have to imagine that's for this, right? That's for Adams, Buffalo, Hall, and Kearney counties in southern Nebraska. And there you go. 80-mile-an-hour winds observed. And look where it is. Smack dab right on that Boeing segment. Exactly where we were talking about. right in that pocket. So there you go. And that is observed. Let's see if they included the report. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Looks like they didn't. Looks like they didn't here. I don't see it. Sometimes they'll say like hazard, 80-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-sized hail source, broadcast media or general public, and then it will say additional information down here that says like wind gust of 80 miles per hour was reported said miles from said location. But in this case, I don't see that at all. But hopefully that will pop up on our software. But it is an observed 80-mile-an-hour wind severe, so let's see if Weatherwise has it yet. Yep, Weatherwise has a 79 and an 80 13 minutes ago. 8 minutes ago, 79. And then 13 minutes ago, 80-mile-an-hour wind gust. Weatherfront doesn't have that just yet. So, confirmed 80-mile-an-hour winds over Minden in southern Nebraska right now. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Severe thunderstorm warning in the brown highlighted polygon, the dark brown that you see here. This includes Minden, Hartwell, Norman, Roseland, Hastings, Denman, Lowell, Newark, as well as into Trumbull. Trumbull in southern Nebraska. Make sure you guys are all away from doors and windows, and preferably you are in your safe spot. Honestly, it's a PDF severe thunderstorm warning, so treat it like a tornado warning. Wherever you would go for your tornado safe spot, assume there was treat this as a tornado warning. You know, if there was a tornado warning for your location, go to the same safe spot you would go for that tornado warning for this severe thunderstorm warning. There is no tornado warning. There is no tornado warning. However, this storm is capable of producing hurricane force-like wind speeds. So you want to go to that same safe spot, away from doors and windows, in the most interior room of your home, lowest floor possible. Again, away from doors and windows. Treat it like a tornado warning, but again, there is no tornado warning. We got a new mesoscale discussion from the Storm Prediction Center for North Dakota. 1.5 to 3-inch hail possible, 75 to 90 mile per hour winds possible, and a few tornadoes, 1 or 2 strong, all possible. I'll show you that graphic in about a minute or so when that fully comes in. Hey, hello, Proxy. Proxy, you ready? I hope you're ready. We got some severe weather heading our way. Finally. Finally. Severe weather heading our way on Friday. Probably just going to be damaging winds, but it could be some pretty cool structures. We'll have to see which way it trends. Either it's going to trend towards your house or my house. It's either going to be more over western Virginia or more towards central Virginia, where the highest severe threat will be on Friday. At least in our state. Here's that graphic. Just came in from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. The greatest short-term risk for damaging winds of 70 to 80 plus miles per hour in that hatched area there. Tiny little hatched area. But the overall tornado watch area, we're seeing the increase in damaging wind potential, and we might see an increase in tornado potential in the next couple of hours. Like I said, maybe a better tornado threat to develop between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. and that highest wind threat to develop between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So the tornado threat will be a shorter window. That wind threat will be a longer window. Talk about some winds, man. A lot of winds. Going into Upham in North Dakota. Haven't said this yet, so I'll say it now. If you haven't already, I greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button, and share the stream with your family, friends, social media, anybody you know. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And consider hitting that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all so you know when I go live tomorrow. We will be live tomorrow. Tomorrow probably won't be our longest live stream of this sequence, but tomorrow will probably be our longest one of this month. I don't think we've done a longer than a 3-hour live stream this month, and I think tomorrow we're probably going to do we're probably going to be live for 3 or more hours tomorrow. Yeah, yesterday, actually, today is our longest live stream of June so far. I think tomorrow will be longer, and I think Thursday will be the longest live stream. Thursday, we will probably be live for much of the afternoon. Yeah, watching this area in Norman in southern Nebraska. See these dark blue pixels? These are likely contamination. This is likely some bad radar data in here. So what we like to do is you like to go off of the main batch here. It looks like this is kind of the main batch of those pixels right in here, which ranges from about 75 to 80. You want to avoid those big dark blue pixels because those seem to be contamination. Because look how you jump from like 72, 75, 74 miles per hour to 107. That's not going to actually happen.
Flood warning has been issued.
And from here, 63 to 114. That's not a legit scan right there. But these wind speeds where you go from 51 to 63 to 70 to 77, those are legit. Those seem like legit pixels. So I think we still have about 75 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts ongoing here heading towards Norman. Not 114 or 100, but 80 mile an hour wind gusts, which is still very, very significant. That's enough to do significant damage to a mobile home. If your mobile home isn't very well built at all, at least as well built as they can be, could even roll over some mobile homes if they're not at least partially well built. You know, mobile homes can't be very well built. Typically, they're not going to withstand any wind speeds greater than about 100 miles per hour. So 80 miles per hour can do very significant damage, if not possibly roll over some. Kearney, Nebraska. Well, thankfully, the worst of these wind speeds are going to stay to your south. The northern side of this line weakened, so probably about like, let's see, how long ago was it? About 10 minutes ago, you probably got a good wind gust of maybe 20, 30 miles per hour. Some areas around your city could have gotten locally higher than that, but for now, seems like the worst winds are already gone and you're likely to just continue with very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, some maybe wind gusts of 10 to 20 miles per hour. I think the worst wind gusts are done for Kearney. And the absolute worst is staying well off to your southeast. Norman is being hit with like 80 miles per hour right now. Look back in Canada. Let's see. Oh, wow. We're about to have... remember I said how these would merge into one big supercell? Looks like we're actually about to have two separate supercells, very close proximity of each other, try to produce tornadoes here in Canada. Really, this one's really good right here. And that's in southeastern Manitoba, Canada. Let's go back to North Dakota here. Looks like they're going to let that tornado warning expire in 16 minutes. Or did they cancel it already? No, they're going to let that expire. You can see the winds north of that tornado warning about 70 miles per hour. Going up into Newburgh, North Dakota. Ooh. Tornado in progress about 20 minutes ago. I missed that. So this tornado warning did produce a tornado southwest of Columbus about 20 minutes ago. I missed that. We were very focused on the PDS severe down in here. Ooh, another 80-mile-an-hour wind report. Exactly 80 miles per hour almost 15 minutes ago. So that's 3 80-mile-an-hour wind reports we've gotten from this one storm. And they keep it at 80 miles per hour observed. We'll see how this convection goes, but you can already see, again, our main line trying to form here. That's our main line trying to form. Watch up here in Canada closely. This is probably going to be the main tornadoes of the day. Could have twin strong tornadoes try to touch down from 2 embedded supercells in this cluster in southeastern Manitoba, Canada. Okay, again, going back down here, this is going to be approaching Hastings here pretty soon. This is moving at, what is it, 50, 55 miles per hour? Where is it? I'm blind. 60 miles per hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to go just in front of that primary convection. We're going to try to tail that down like this. It's moving to the east-northeast like this. Maybe even a little bit sharper than that. Roughly like that. And it's moving at 60 miles per hour and will do for the next 30 minutes. There you go. Storm's moving at 60 miles per hour off to the northeast. So it's going to hit Shelton here in about 5 minutes. Then it's going to hit Hastings here in about 15 minutes. And then Grand Isle in about 25 minutes. Most of that wind is on the southern side as well, so areas that are in the highest risk for damaging winds with this storm is like Roseland, which is about 5 minutes. You have Hastings again in about 15 minutes, and surrounding areas you see there on your screen. But it looks like those worst wind speeds in Norman are beginning to decrease. If we go ahead and loop this, look how when those wind reports came in, you had dark blue velocities upwards of 87, 89 miles per hour. And those maintained for about 10, 15 minutes. And now, about a scan or two ago, it was down to about 65, 70 miles per hour. And on the newest scan, only a tiny little pocket of 70 miles per hour right there. So it seems like the worst winds are over from this MCS here. So Hastings still could get about 60 miles per hour, but I don't think you're at risk for the 80 mile per hour wind gusts that we saw back here southwest of Minden in southern Nebraska. But look at all the damaging wind reports from this MCS. Look at all that. Nowhere else has that many reports. They're all scattered. This one, you could see a few reports here from this MCS in North Dakota. You got some scattered ones here in South Dakota. Some in northwestern Nebraska. And you just have this huge, huge hotspot of damaging winds in this area. And again, that's why the SPC connected this enhanced risk. Because remember, earlier this morning, we had an enhanced in this area. And then we had our enhanced risk up in this area. There was no enhanced risk anywhere for the state of Nebraska this morning, and only for the southern side of Kansas this morning. And they connected that enhanced risk. I believe that was at the 4 p.m. Eastern update, a little over 4 hours ago. And that was definitely the right call. For sure. That PDS is now EDS. Yeah, it is. It's a PDS EDS, which means there's probably an area that is very prone to damaging winds in this area. So normally that happens when there's like a city. Hastings might be the reason for that EDS, which is an extremely dangerous situation. That might be the reason why they pulled the EDS tag, because of the 70 to 80 miles per hour wind gusts moving towards Hastings. Even though, again, I think it will be weakened down to about 60 mile an hour wind gusts once it gets there. It's still possible they pull the moderate, but our line isn't as organized as I was thinking at this point. If we take a look at the HRRR for right now, you can see we're really not doing that well with convection in this area. We have our main northern part of our line that's to the north, and then our severe that's to the south. But in the middle, there's not a whole lot of convection doing a lot of severe damage and severe wind gusts. So I think it's still possible they pull the moderate, but I don't think so. What about the upcoming days? I did a whole 1 hour briefing on Thursday alone, and then talked about the other days as well. But yeah, basically tomorrow is trending a bit more sloppy, less of a wind threat than expected. Tornado threat is remaining about the same, maybe a little bit higher tornado threat than we were thinking. Hail threat remaining the same. Thursday, continuing to uptrend. Thursday, I think we'll go day 2 moderate for wind, and we even have the potential for a moderate for tornadoes on Thursday. And we'll have a morning MCS that causes a lot of damage across southern Iowa, maybe into Wisconsin and northern Illinois. And then our main MCS will be in the afternoon. That could be a derecho, maybe warranting that moderate for wind and tor. Wouldn't even rule out a high risk for wind on Thursday. Push into Friday. A little bit of uncertainty, but definitely big time damaging winds looks likely on Friday. Especially in Virginia and southern Pennsylvania, maybe even into New York. And then going into Saturday, we'll switch back over to Kansas, where it looks like another MCS will be possible across a good chunk of central and eastern Kansas into northern Oklahoma on Saturday. And just to show you the outlooks of all of those, there's today, there's tomorrow's outlook, highest tor threat, highest wind threat, highest hail threat. Thursday, there's your enhanced. I expect they will expand the enhanced in many directions, especially to the northwest for Thursday. Maybe add that moderate risk somewhere in here on the day 2 outlook. Friday, I think this slight risk will expand a little bit further off to the south. And then Saturday, I think this slight risk will also be expanded further to the south. So there's your little quick update on those risks if you missed the like hour and a half briefing we did before the coverage earlier today. I have no idea if this is on the ground or not, Rockets. I'm sure there's a chaser that would be able to say if it is, but definitely 2 areas trying to drop a tornado in southeastern Manitoba and Canada. Still 2 tornado warnings active for just 6 more minutes. I don't think we'll get a new tornado warning, but I do think this should probably be upgraded to a significant, or rather a destructive severe. Look at that. Looks like this is probably producing 80 miles per hour. We'll have to see if we get any reports up here, but you know what you need for reports? You need a lot of population. So this isn't really hitting very populated areas. There's definitely population here, but not everybody in these towns are going to be reporting wind gusts to the NWS. So if we don't get any ground truth, they may not upgrade that warning. If we had this type of storm hitting like a major city or something, there would be hundreds of reports. We had that once in Kansas City with a destructive severe. We literally got like almost 100 some reports, maybe even more than that, when those destructive storms hit Kansas City. Even yesterday, look, this is yesterday, which, mind you, the storm was dying out. The storm was dying out when it hit Kansas City. And look at all the reports around the Kansas City area and to the south. If that went a little bit more north, there'd be even more. So reports are definitely, as much as you may not want to admit it, they are definitely population bias for sure. Iowa's not at risk for any severe weather really today. I can take a look at exactly where that is. So you're in northwest Iowa. Yeah, just maybe some isolated wind gusts tonight, but not much. Don't really know why you're in a 5 sig tour, but you are. I really don't expect much. Just some gusty winds and maybe heavy rain about 11 p.m. tonight. Tomorrow, I think most of it will stay to your east. And then Thursday, I think most of it will stay to your southeast. Friday will be well east of you. And then Saturday, I think it will be to your south. So I think you won't get anything too crazy. Your best chance for severe storms is tonight. But that chance is not very high. If we look at the simulated future radar here, pull this out. These would be the strongest storms, and you could see at 11 p.m. Central, stays off to your northwest. So if those manage to be more to the southeast, you could get some wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. HRRR in about 15 minutes. Let's see. Go get another radar program open real quick. Give me a second. So, Zero, if you're in North Dakota, the worst is past you. I don't think you'll get a lot more tonight. The worst is past you. You had about 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gust a little over an hour ago. Then for Brandon in Nebraska.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
It's going to be here. The worst is likely going to go off to your northwest. You're in that tornado watch. But I think this line of damaging winds will stay just a little bit off to your northwest here in about an hour. So watch out for some rain in like an hour and a half or two, just in case this shifts a little south. But I think the worst will stay to your northwest. And if any other storms do develop, you could get wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. But it looks like you might be in a little hole here of storms. You've got a very significant storm that's to your northwest. And then these strong, severe storms to your south. So it looks like this area might not get a lot of severe weather today. Might split right over you. If you're a storm chaser, that would be your type of luck. Over here in Southern Virginia, that happens all too often, where it looks like a big severe threat, and then all of a sudden, it decides to split right over my county alone. Indianapolis for Thursday. why not Indianapolis today? You just got into a severe thunderstorm warning. That is it right there at the bottom of your screen for Indianapolis. So you just got put in a severe warning for this storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds and 0.75-inch hail. And then you'll likely be put in another severe for this MCS that is going to be pushing into your area here in about an hour or so. So over the next hour and a half, prepare for 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, and very heavy rain and frequent lightning, especially with the MCS here, which is a line of severe storms, in about 40 minutes or so, 40 to 60 minutes. And you did say Thursday, so I'll also go over Thursday for you as well. Just in case you're wondering about, like, if you have plans Thursday, what could happen. I don't think you will get anything bad on Thursday afternoon. I think it will be Thursday night you have to worry about. Late evening into the early overnight hours. This says 9 p.m. It could be an hour or two earlier or an hour or two later. But I do believe you'll be at risk for 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts as a large line with a lot of lightning, a lot of wind, and a lot of heavy rain pushes through Thursday evening into the early overnight hours. So be weather aware for that. And then I saw another question. Yeah, you said how's the Cape out there in Nebraska? Should be a lot of instability. Typically, we have a lot of that thunderstorm fuel in June. And yeah, no shortage. Matter of fact, I think your area has the most Cape in probably the U.S. Yeah, it looks like it. I believe southern Nebraska has the most Cape out of anywhere in the U.S. with a 5,500 Cape. That might be a little like a county to your north, but a bunch of Cape there. And something that's also important for winds is downdraft Cape, which is basically just instability for damaging winds. And we typically look for that to be over 900, right around 1,000. Yeah, you're at about 1,500 out here, which is plentiful for significant winds, which is why we had those wind gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour earlier to your west. And there's that new severe thunderstorm warning, and again, barely off to your northwest. Barely off to your northwest. I can already tell you the 00Z HRRR is not rendering on at least the site that I use, which is College of DuPage. I start looking at about 8:55 my time for the 00Z. Right around then is when it starts rendering. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Because StormNet just released, which is an AI forecasting tool, and I know probably not a lot of y'all are AI lovers, but this thing has been very, very accurate. And it paints southeast Iowa as the highest torr threat tomorrow, which is very strange because look at southeast Iowa on this map. If I pull this out a little further, doesn't really look too crazy in southeast Iowa. Really, the worst looks like northern Wisconsin into southwestern Wisconsin, southeastern Michigan, northeastern, or rather southeastern Minnesota, northeastern Iowa. But StormNet is painting like this area right in here for the highest tornado threat tomorrow. Let's check the environment. And the environment isn't really better down there. It looks best up here. Let's look at the NAM. The NAM has like a kind of a, I wouldn't say a triple point, but some more boundary action happening here. You get an outflow boundary from your MCS, your cold front here, so that allows for a locally greater area for tornadoes in southeast Iowa. I wonder if that is something that maybe StormNet is picking up on. So we'll have to see. Is StormNet going to be correct with the highest tor threat in southeast Iowa tomorrow? Or will the HRRR be correct in western Wisconsin being the highest tornado threat tomorrow? I'd probably lean more with StormNet just because the HRRR hasn't done very well this year. StormNet has only really missed stuff like twice and done bad twice this year. It's really been a very good product. But yeah, I don't expect the SPC to go moderate today, not when we're missing such a crucial area of convection that's just not developing right now. We'll see how the 00Z HRRR handles that when it starts in about 5 minutes. And then the SPC outlook comes out here in just 10 minutes. So wait to see that. We do still have an active tornado warning here in the U.S. We have this new one in far northwestern North Dakota for Columbus. That is still active for a crazy 39 minutes. Pretty long duration tornado warning there. And then back into Canada, we still do have the 2 tornado warnings here. And I would be surprised if that is not dropping a tornado. That looks crazy. We don't cover Canada too often, but I mean, when you're having a full-fledged outbreak out here, I mean, look at this. You got a huge severe here, severes here, bunch of severes here, tornado warning, big severes here. I mean, Canada is having probably more activity, probably about equal to the U.S. because we have a lot of stuff that's happening here in Kansas and Nebraska. But pretty much just as much activity in Canada as there is in the U.S. Oh yeah, we'll stay live for the 00ZHRRR. I don't think I'll be live for the entire thing, but we'll at least stay live to see what it shows for tomorrow. How long does it take to render? When did we start stream? We started stream at 6 o'clock. I'd be pushing it. But yeah, I do plan on doing an outlook tonight for Thursday in the Discord server for those who are interested. I'll post that in the hypothetical channel. Discord server is the 3rd link in the description. It's not, like I said, it's not a very crazy active server, and that's all on me because I don't really do much with it, but if you want to see that outlook, I'll post it there and there alone. And also, yeah, obviously, me and Lucky are both in that Discord server as well. No, this app has models too, but we're going to use College of DuPage, which typically loads the model a bit faster than this website. Here it comes. 00ZHRRR is rendering in now. If you don't know what that is, the HRRR is considered one of the best high-resolution model runs for severe weather, and it updates every single hour. However, every 6 hours, it goes out 48 hours. So every single hour it updates, it typically goes out 18 hours in advance, but every 6 hours it updates, that 6th update will go out 48 frames. So at 06Z, it goes out 48 hours. 12Z, it goes out 48 hours. 18Z, it goes out 48 hours. And 00Z, which is what we're waiting for, goes out 48 hours. And the reason why the 00Z HRRR is so big for tonight is because that goes out into the severe weather outbreak that we're expecting on Thursday. So that's why that model run is big for tonight. because that will be a big factor in likely what the SPC will do for their morning day 2 outlook tomorrow for Thursday. Still very significant damaging winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour approaching Hastings in southern Nebraska, so be away from doors and windows. It looks like the worst of our heaviest convection and storms should be just a little north of Hastings, but still want to be away from doors and windows in Hastings, south central Nebraska. So, just to go over all the outlooks again for those who are just tuning in or may not have seen it when I did the briefing about 2.5 hours ago. Today's outlook will update in about 5 minutes. So I'll go over that when that gets updated. But we'll go over tomorrow's outlook right now. And this is for Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. And we have a huge enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 for severe weather that is in place across that orange vicinity. This includes the potential for strong tornadoes in this hatched area you see here. And we have a 10% tornado risk there in that yellow hatched area, centered on the triple state area of southeastern Minnesota, southwestern Wisconsin, northeastern Iowa, right where the HRRR is saying the highest tornado threat will be tomorrow. However, StormNet, which is an AI tool, was highlighting a little bit further to the south, back down in here for the highest tor threat. So we're going to see if the SPC extends that 10% at their outlook tomorrow or not. Damaging winds will also be a very large concern tomorrow. Widespread 70 to 80 miles per hour will most likely occur across that red hatched area. Even a gust up to 90 can't be ruled out. And very large hail upwards of 3.5 inches in diameter will be possible across that red hatched area. Also, potential for upwards of 2.5-inch hail even back into Wichita, Kansas tomorrow. Then we go into Thursday, which is what we expect to be the biggest outbreak out of this entire 5-6 day stretch of severe weather that began like 2-3 days ago, where we have that very large 3 out of 5 enhanced risk in place here from southwestern Michigan all the way into southern Wisconsin, southeastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, much of central and northern Illinois, and into northwestern Indiana. I expect this enhanced risk will at least be expanded to the west-southwest at least a little bit at their next outlook update, and we could even see a level 4 to 5 introduced across this region if confidence is high enough in wind gusts upwards of 100 miles per hour, which I do think will be possible on Thursday. And there's your probability. We don't have the tor, the wind, and the hail probability. This is just the overall probability for severe storms on Thursday, and they already have that very large 30 sig 1 risk, which just means the risk for significant severe weather is likely across that red hatched area for Thursday. Then we go into Friday. We have a slight risk already outlined. That's a level 2 out of 5 for severe weather, all the way from just west of Vermont into far northeastern New York. Almost the whole state of New York covered in that slight risk into Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, the entire state of Pennsylvania included in that, also into New Jersey, Delaware, and then back up into far eastern New York. And I do expect this slight risk to be expanded at least slightly off to the east-southeast, because I do think we'll have some severe potential into North Carolina and far south-central Virginia on Friday. Saturday, we continue with yet another level 2 out of 5 slight risk for severe weather outlined in the area you see here in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri. Much of the same areas that we are talking about for today's severe threat and tomorrow's severe threat under the gun for Saturday's severe weather threat. And I do expect them to extend that slight risk off to the south, maybe even into Oklahoma for Saturday, as we expect another damaging wind bag, big MCS, to occur there across much of central and eastern Kansas on Saturday. Sunday, we lose it. There's no predictability here. Not enough predictability, I should say, to outline an area of severe weather for day 6, which is Sunday. However, I do think we'll have at least a little chance for severe weather across the southeastern U.S., on Sunday, and then maybe a slim chance for some severe weather back in the southern plains, but nothing notable. So, the highest day for severe weather, in my opinion, looks to be Thursday. Tomorrow will probably be close to the highest day, but I think Thursday will be the highest day for severe weather, and I think that will go moderate, 4 out of 5 for severe weather for Thursday. And do I think it will go to 3 out of 5? I think Friday will probably go to 3 out of 5 for damaging winds. Somewhere between Pennsylvania and northern North Carolina, I think will be in a enhanced risk on Friday. I don't know exactly where, but somewhere probably in there. And then for Saturday, yeah, I think that will also go enhanced for damaging winds across Kansas. I think both Friday and Saturday
A new flash flood warning has been issued.
will go enhanced for wind. Neither of them look like good tornado potential. Saturday's tornado potential looks a little bit higher than Friday's, but neither of them look like a good tornado threat that I would be worried about or concerned about. I just wouldn't rule out a brief tornado on Friday in Pennsylvania, and then Saturday, a little bit better chance for a brief tornado or two, especially across southeastern Kansas. So that was just your quick little overview there of the overall severe threat. And then also Thursday, they don't have it yet. They do have a marginal, but I think they'll upgrade this to a slight risk. I expect a good chance for damaging winds across this area. That may not stretch into southern Virginia like I have here, but at least in this area for Thursday, I think we will get an upgrade to a level 2 out of 5. So we'll keep a close eye on that. And I'm interested to see what the 00ZHRRR has over there, if anything. Z is 7 frames into Wednesday morning. Yes, Thursday is uptrended quite a bit. At least compared to some of the models yesterday. But if you were in the discussion yesterday, we did mention the high-end potential. It's just some of these models are playing catch-up. Let's go to... back over here again. I'm going to go back to Nebraska as well. Neither of them look nearly as impressive anymore. We did just get a considerable severe for a 1.75-inch hail out here west of Tryon? Well, west of Stapleton in central Nebraska. And we should get the SPC outlook for today at any second. It may have already been issued and I just didn't catch it. Nope, no outlook yet. It's a little bit late. A new tornado watch will likely be needed in eastern Nebraska and southeastern South Dakota for the continuation of these severe storms to head into that area. And that tornado watch could even include a few counties in far northwestern Iowa. So up to 3-inch hail, a strong tornado or two, and 80 miles per hour, 80 mile an hour wind gusts will be possible there. A new tornado watch will likely be needed to cover that threat. Gracious. A lot of alerts coming in. Yeah, they're not going to go moderate because it seems like this is actually underperforming at the moment. I think the HRRR considerably overdid today's wind threat. Did the RRFSA do the same? We'll see. This is 9 o'clock, which is not what we're seeing right now. And yeah, it also had big time winds happening. And that's not the case. All right, let's pull up our model run. 00Z HRRR. Let's see what that has for tonight. Okay. Random SIG tour in eastern North Dakota, because why not? I can tell you that's not going to happen because, well, if we take a look at our radar, there ain't no supercell there. Yeah, it definitely looks like the HRRR downtrended a lot on that
A
convection.
new flash flood warning has been issued.
But it still shows a very significant amount of damaging winds between now 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. up here in North Dakota into northwestern Minnesota. And still very significant in northeastern South Dakota, southern Minnesota, far northwestern Iowa, right in that vicinity there. I'll keep that circle there till that severe disappears. So you can see that. Also has it being a pretty significant severe threat down there. But definitely a huge downtrend on the overall severe threat today on the HRRR. So I don't think they will be pulling that moderate. I would be pretty surprised if they do. Hard to see that rotation because it's far from the radar. But at least some rotation there. That's now moving into Canada, though. So I imagine they might let that warning run for 24 minutes. They might go ahead and cancel it because the storm's moving outside of the U.S. and outside that warned area. I expect, I'm kind of surprised we don't already have a new severe warning out here in this area. Even though that entire MCS is going to go into Canada, I think this is still capable of producing 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it's in an unwarned area here. Does today underperform do anything for tomorrow? Probably not. Probably not. Because the thing is, we're still going to get convection, so this stuff's, whether it's significant or not, it's going to progress east and head into that risk area for tomorrow and mess up the warm sector at least a little bit. Maybe not a bunch, but at least to some extent it will impact tomorrow's severe threat. But no, I don't think it will do anything notable today. Underperforming probably won't do much for tomorrow. Now, if tomorrow underperforms, that could be a different story for Thursday. That could play a bigger role in Thursday's severe threat. Thank you for the $2 donation, Weather Warrior. Mentioning exactly what I just said. I think if tomorrow underperforms, if we take a look here, this is the old HRRR. If tomorrow doesn't have all this convection, what will happen is that entire warm sector won't be pushed so far to the east. So instead of us having like 3,000 Cape over here in eastern Ohio or 2,000 Cape out here, that would actually stretch from Ohio right back up into Wisconsin and Iowa, and your warm sector would be a lot more to the north than that. And that could play a huge role in a much more widespread severe weather threat across that area. If tomorrow underperforms. Do they, let me see. I think they disextended that warning. Yeah, they disextended it, but did not cancel it. So that warning is still very much in effect here for Portal in far northwestern North Dakota. So we'll keep watching that. YouTube app died, so I missed all my answers. Basically, if today underperforms, which it looks like it's going to, it won't affect much tomorrow. But if tomorrow underperforms, that can result in a more northern extent of our severe weather on Thursday. So today, underperforming doesn't do much for tomorrow, but if tomorrow underperforms, it will impact and make Thursday more widespread. I do think Thursday has the potential for a high risk, yes. And I'm 99% sure that's going to come down to simply the morning MCS and whatever that does. Now, I don't know what this is for tomorrow, but this would be a big, big difference. For some reason, the HRRR has heavy convection in the open warm sector tomorrow morning, and that would completely change probably tomorrow's severe threat. We'll have to see. Yeah, look at that. Look at the difference. This is tomorrow's severe threat on the 18Z HRRR, and look how far north that warm sector is. And then the 00Z, for some reason, it fired storms down here in Iowa. And because of that, your warm sector is still trying to go further to the north, but it's got a big gap here in instability and a big cool pool. And it's definitely not as far to the north. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. That definitely could help underperform tomorrow's severe threat for sure, if that random blob happens. That's not associated with the convection that we think is going to underperform up here in North Dakota, South Dakota, and western Minnesota. That's just associated with, it looks like maybe a little random area of spin in western Iowa. Should have the new SPC outlook here. Yes, we do. Wow, that's a big boy. They expanded the enhanced completely to the west. Except for a tiny little disexpansion in northwestern North Dakota. I'll show you the probs on that in a minute, but they expanded that enhanced further to the west. Which is strange. But they just expanded this portion of the enhanced, and then they expanded this portion of the enhanced is further off to the west. Like that. It looks a lot weirder and bigger for some reason. Oh, they also expanded the enhanced a little bit more into Iowa. So it now goes into a very slim, very, very slim corner of northwestern Iowa. We'll see if they kept that 45 sig 1 wind or not. And we're watching the 00Z HRRR render in for tomorrow, and it currently is completely different. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. Huge difference between these two models. One has a bunch of slop ongoing in the open warm sector tomorrow afternoon before storms are supposed to fire, and the other one has a clear open warm sector at that time. So that would considerably help underperform tomorrow's event if that actually comes to fruition. Indianapolis, Indiana, you're under a severe thunderstorm. Someone in chat just pointed out a tornado could actually be developing southwest of Mooresville. So if you're in that area, get to your safe spot. Looks like we have a tornado trying to touch down southwest of Mooresville, well southwest of Indianapolis, Indiana. QLCS tornado trying to occur there. And for all we know, could already be ongoing. That's just northwest of Brooklyn, just southwest of Mooresville, right over County Road 125. So get to your safe spot. You don't have to, but radar's picking up on a decent signature that is capable of producing a tornado there, so I would highly recommend it if you are in between Brooklyn and Mooresville. You're in this area in here. I would get to your safe spot. If this does touch down, it's likely to be a very weak, brief tornado. So as long as you're indoors, away from doors and windows, you'll most likely be perfectly fine. But you don't want to mess around with it. It's best just to get to your safe spot just in case. It looks like another tornado trying to touch down here south of Adams, Indiana. Northeast of a very familiar name to me. And that picks up on both our terminal and our main one as well. So 2 tornadoes trying to occur. This one looks like it's a little bit broader on that newest scan, but still an area of rotation. Southwest of Mooresville. And then a pretty good area of rotation south of Adams in Indiana. So if you're around that area, in between Brooklyn and Mooresville, I recommend staying away from doors and windows and maybe getting to your safe spot. And it looks like this one here is going to stay just south of Adams, and this is going to go well north of Morgantown and just southeast of Adams. So preferably be in your safe spot there as well. And again, if that does produce a tornado, it will likely be a weak, brief one. And again, that is in Indiana, south of Indianapolis. Let's go over to the Storm Prediction Center. For some reason, I still haven't gotten that new update. Let's see if Weather Front has. Nope, Weather Front still has the old outlook as well. So, yeah, again, we're going to wait to see the new SPC outlook. It's been out for a little while. We just haven't seen it actually update. Well, this is a fully different scenario, man. Like, what the heck? Looking like Thursday over here, trying to do a 1-2 punch. This is for tomorrow, not Thursday, but it looks like the setup Thursday would be new SPC outlook. Like I said, fat 15 sig, my bad. Fat enhanced risk. I was reading chat talking about a 15 sig 2-door. A big fat enhanced risk here. Across North Dakota, South Dakota, level 3 out of 5, Nebraska, even into Kansas, and now into a sliver of Iowa, and just like before, into western Minnesota. 10 sig Tor was maintained, which is a little odd.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
It's in Indiana. Glad to see that come out, because those storms are capable of producing tornadoes. Very good call from the NWS there, but they've kept a 10 sig Tor here across North Dakota, which I slightly disagree with, to be honest. Damaging wind threat, they've kept it 45 sig 1. I mean, I'm not surprised. They upgraded it earlier. What was it, yesterday afternoon they upgraded it? I'd be a little bit surprised if they did downgrade it, so that's still 45 sig 1 there, and then still 30 sig hail. So big old 3 out of 5 in place. New tornado warning for that storm we were talking about. That's on the ground. That is a tornado on the ground now in that tornado warned area. So if you're in that tornado warning, thankfully the one south of Morrisville and in between Brooklyn broke apart. So you're good to come out of your safe spot if you were in your safe spot. But still stay away from doors and windows as this storm pushes through. But unfortunately, to your south, people out here southeast of Adams were not as fortunate as you. And it looks like a tornado is going to be ongoing here. Right across this region here. So that's going to be going very close to Maple Grove Road and Cope Road. Right where those two roads intersect is going to be very close to where this tornado is. And it actually looks like it's gone southeast of that. So now it's going to be where State Road 44 and Wampler Road intersect. Right around that vicinity is where we have a tornado ongoing. And again, that's just to the southeast of Adams, southwest of Bargersville, moving to the northeast here in Indiana. And you can see there's that CC drop indicating a tornado ongoing. So make sure you get to your safe spot if you're in that warning for Bargersville, Indiana. Alabama is safe from all of these threats. You guys got this big, fat, high-pressure ridge that is actually one of the reasons for all of the severe weather threats today and the next couple days. We have this big ridge that is centered over the southern U.S., and that's blocking all these troughs from going into your area, and that's helping to push the winds this way, and then you get a troughs that dig in and push this way. So, yeah, whole state of Alabama should see nothing. There may be some rain chances, despite a high pressure. Yeah, there's some rain chances in central and southern Alabama earlier today, but it seems like that stuff's probably relatively cleared. Yeah, it's in southeast Alabama right now. And then I think the next few days should be clear for Alabama. Just some isolated storms Friday afternoon. But likely nothing significant. Nothing like what we're dealing with back up here in Indiana and North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Let's see if the CC is still there. Yep, still there. So still a probable weak tornado ongoing here. Just to the southwest of Bargersville, southeast of Adams, Indiana. Make sure you get to your safe spot if you're in that tornado warning. That is a life-threatening situation because it is a weak tornado ongoing. And again, if you haven't already, make sure you spread this stream with your family, friends, social media. Help get the word out, especially if you know anybody out here around the Indianapolis area. Spread the word about this live stream because these storms are pretty significant for damaging winds and could still have a tornado ongoing right there, southeast of Adams. And there's also plenty of other storms to keep an eye on, but it looks like North Dakota, these storms are forming, though. You could see it looks a lot more like our main line we were anticipating, but they're still very weak. But it looks like that line is starting to get going. I just don't think it will be as significant as models portrayed. It's just a mess on this model run for tomorrow, man. You get a severe storm. You get a severe storm. I mean, all the way from Indianapolis back into Detroit, all the way back up into the Twin Cities and Minnesota. Just everybody gets it. But the good news is a lot of it is sloppy. Until we get later in the evening, we start seeing a little bit more of these updraft tracks indicating wind, hail, and maybe even some tornado potential closer to 7, 8 o'clock. But that's definitely a very sloppy looking setup for tomorrow. Still a CC drop there. We'll get a new scan. Actually, new scan. That is it. Still could be a weak, brief tornado there. It's a very light CC drop. It's very light correlation. So this is, if this is a tornado, we know pretty confident it was. But if this is still an ongoing tornado, it's probably lifting very little debris, like tiny little twigs, maybe at most a 2x4, probably barely doing damage if it's still ongoing. Whereas earlier, you could see it was a dark blue CC drop, that correlation drop, down to, of course, that number. Which means that it could have been lofting a little bit larger objects, like multiple 2x4s, some sidings and some shingles and pieces of homes, and a lot of leaves and a lot of sticks and maybe some decent sized tree limbs. But now you can see that CC is very spread out. So most likely this is now some leaves and some tiny twigs falling from the sky probably lifted at this point. Most likely no longer a tornado ongoing, as this is likely going to pass just to the southeast of Bargersville, Indiana. Central Indiana is not cooked, but we definitely did just have a brief tornado southeast of Adams over the last about 10 minutes. And this storm is definitely producing a lot of lightning, heavy rain, and 50, 60 mile an hour wind gusts. But you're not cooked. I wouldn't say that. If you happen to be an extremely unlucky person who happened to be hit by that brief weak tornado, it would have been just that brief week. Most likely, if you're indoors, that wouldn't have been much of a great threat to you. Because typically, like this type of signature, most of the time those winds are not going to be enough to cause very significant damage. If we base it off of velocity, I mean, you're looking at like probably 60 miles per hour or so. And that's not a whole lot of winds to cause significant damage, but it's still a tornado nonetheless. But if you heeded the warning and you stayed indoors, away from doors and windows, in the lowest, on the lowest floor of your home, away from all the doors and windows, and in the most interior room of that house, most likely you would be 100% fine. But based on velocity is thinking probably between 40, 60 mile an hour velocity there. And I would have to imagine much of the CC is probably from trees and not homes. But hopefully, if anyone was impacted, they're all right. They heeded the warning and are okay. Not really much very significant severe weather happening. I mean, we have this hail course still southwest of Theford, Nebraska. And then we have our significant storm that was in North Dakota. That severe expires in 3 minutes now into Canada. So really, we don't have much to watch. I mean, we only have one SIG severe that's technically worth keeping an eye on, and that's in Nebraska. And then we're still going to watch this spin-up torr threat here in Indianapolis. But I feel like the HRRR is dead wrong on tomorrow, so don't take that to heart. Which means, guess what? It's probably not going to have a good hold on things for Thursday. Most likely won't have a good hold on things for Thursday if it's already wrong about tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying it is wrong about tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be at that point. I don't think we'll see this intense of a line go across our open warm sector in the afternoon. I do think we will have some storms across this area in the afternoon, early afternoon, that could inhibit a greater severe threat tomorrow. But I don't think it will be this widespread and this significant. We're already over halfway done through the HRRR. Halfway is 22 frames. We are at 30, and it started rendering about 30 minutes ago, so we should be able to look at this completely. Should be able to watch this render in fully. Let's see what rockets added me in over here. Dang! Holy crap. May be producing a tornado now. Are you kidding me? that might be a tornado. Maybe. It's just a big, thick stovepipe, not fully condensed with debris under it. That's definitely a tornado. 7:10 p.m., which is 9:10 p.m. my time. That is 19 minutes ago. Is that from those storms far or this one? Oxbow. Is that Oxbow, like... I'm wondering if it's from these storms up here or this storm down in here that was crossing the US-Canada border. Yeah, it's from this storm. Yep. That's from this storm. I had a tornado on this storm crossing the border of the US and Canada. Wasn't, at least that photo wasn't the one from southeastern Manitoba. Don't know why I forgot that Providence name. Not sure exactly where it was. Okay. Let's go back over here. Give me just a moment. Perfect. All right, let's go back over to Indiana here. Still tornado warning active for Franklin now. Needham. Make sure you guys are in your safe spot. Get away from doors and windows. Go to the most interior room of your home on the lowest floor possible. We have not passed the peak of the event. The peak event is when I won't be live, which is from 10 p.m. all the way till 10 p.m. all the way till 3 a.m. is the peak. And I won't be streaming the peak. Again, just like yesterday. Yesterday I planned a 1 hour stream, did 2.5. Today I planned a 1 hour stream and we did 4. Also new severe for Pendleton, Markville, Indiana. Make sure you guys get away from doors and windows. Oh, and look at that. There's your significant MCS trying to form already on the HRRR here at, what is this, 5 a.m. Thursday morning. And man, oh man, that would actually be a big wind, hail, and tour threat. Definitely glad I waited for the 00Z. You'll see why if you look at my Outlook tonight. I'll have that Outlook out probably about 11 Eastern. It'll probably take me a good hour just to do a deep dive into all these models again. Just make sure my Outlook's going to be good enough to post. And I'll have that out in the hypothetical tab in the Discord server. Third link in the description. I'm promoting that a little bit too much, aren't I? I apologize. Of course, that's going to be an unofficial Outlook, but yeah, I'm going to do a big old Outlook on that. Might just take me a whole hour just to type up the discussion itself. Boyle Sharpie incoming. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth a moderate. Shoot, even this could be the start of what would be worth a moderate here. Starting from like south central Iowa into that area there. Might be a tad bit too far south. Maybe more like this. Not too far east. What I'm trying to do is there's 2 rounds tomorrow. And you want to try to get both of those inside the main risk. You don't want to go too far north because then you're going to end up with slopfest elevated convection that doesn't do much more than some small hail, maybe isolated large hail. And you don't want to go too far south because you may not have enough forcing that far to the south. So there's going to be a perfect balance here, and we're gonna see on the HRRR exactly where that is. You could see vastly different runs from the... This is different time, isn't it? No, look at this. Vastly different runs from the 00Z to the 18Z HRRR. Does that line up more or less with the NAM? More with the NAM. So the HRRR is more in line with our other guidance on the 00Z, which is absolutely excellent. It means it likely isn't going to be as accurate for tomorrow's severe threat as we already discussed, but it could still be accurate for Thursday. And I want to see if it's at least close to the RRFSA, because that's the model run I've been using the most recently. And you could see this is noon. We want to go to 12Z. This is 12Z, and you could see it's not as close. It's not slow enough, which is actually crazy. It's not slow enough as the RRFSA. So the 18Z HRRR was garbage in that case. It was an outlier. Back to our radar. Good area of rotation still in Franklin. This could produce another weak brief tornado, but I don't think it has as good of a chance anymore as what it once did. I'm not as concerned about that anymore. Ooh, new significant severe in Nebraska. For Petersburg, get away from doors and windows there. Stay close to your safe spot just in case things get a bit rough. And I do think this will be part of the line that goes into southeastern South Dakota, southwestern. I'm having trouble with Minnesota over here. I keep forgetting the state. In northwestern Iowa. We did just get a new tornado watch. There's your tornado watch for northwest Iowa, northeastern Nebraska, and southeastern South Dakota, as well as a few counties in southwestern Minnesota. It's all moderate probability, 40% chance for a tornado, 30% chance for a strong EF2 plus tornado, 60% chance of 10 or more wind events greater than or equal to 60 miles per hour, 60% chance one of those 60 mile an hour events or greater is 75 miles an hour or greater, 40% chance for 10 or more events of 1-inch hail or greater, 40% chance one of those 10 events is 2-inch hail or greater inside that tornado watch prob till 4 a.m. Eastern. 4 a.m. Eastern in that highlighted purple area. Long duration tornado watch right there. 6 hours. Not the longest we've seen. We've seen, I think, 11-hour tornado watch before here in the U.S. Of course, in Canada, I think they've gotten like as long as a 24-hour tor watch in Canada before. Although they're considerably better now. They used to be crazy. All the warnings and watches were so long, way longer than needed. And way larger than needed in Canada. Now they've gotten a lot better up there. More accurate. This stuff still would pose a pretty notable tornado threat. This is elevated slop right here, north of this. So this would pose 60 mile an hour winds, 1 to 2-inch hail, maybe a brief weak tornado. But the stuff south of that Thursday morning, this would be more notable. This would be, in this case, this is very significant. 3-inch hail, 80 mile an hour winds, and a few tornadoes, 1 or 2 strong. If this were to come to fruition, it would actually be a very significant early morning threat for severe weather before your primary severe weather threat later in the afternoon. One thing is, look at the difference between the placement. Here's the 00Z. Draw the bulk of our convection on the 00Z HRRR. And then look at the NAM. Bulk of the convection on the NAM, not only does it start further south, but it actually extends further north. Not as far west, though. So that's something. I mean, look how far south your warm sector is Thursday morning. This is 11 a.m. Thursday morning Eastern. Look how far south that warm sector is on the NAM. And look how quickly it's able to recover. That's crazy. And here it is on the HRRR. Newest HRRR. Further to the north. So this might paint a little bit more north of an overall severe threat. A little bit more north. Yeah, get off of Twitter. This is definitely going to be a crazy HRRR run for Thursday. Get ready to see the random person draw a high risk on the day 2 outlook. On Twitter. I'm all for experimenting, though, like that. I think people tear people down too much on Twitter. As long as you say that it's unofficial and you keep the bracket where it says unofficial in and you make it clear that it's your own, I'm all for posting your own outlooks. And if you really want to be careful and be smart about it, try it out first for like a month, see how it verifies, and if it goes well, start uploading it. If not, then keep going until you get good enough to where you're comfortable with uploading it on Twitter. I think people get torn down too much with their own outlooks. And it's like, if you're not agreeing with the SPC, then you're terrible and you're not a good forecaster. Still a good area of rotation here. Going towards Needham over Franklin, Indiana. Still staying your safe spot for at least the next 19 minutes. Looks like our highest severe threat might actually be down in here. Going up into... Draw that a bit differently. Might actually be down in here. As opposed to where we were originally thinking it to be up in here. So this might actually be the better chance for 80 to 90 mile an hour winds as opposed to this. Seems like our line just isn't strong, which is weird. It's finally strengthening. It's finally strengthening, but it's not... It didn't strengthen as fast as we thought, and it's not strengthening as soon as we thought. We only got 6 more frames on the HRRR, but that will get us out till 8 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Holy crap. That looks like the NAM, but worse. Look at the uptrend. And that's just because the HRRR was handling things incorrectly for Thursday, which is exactly what we predicted earlier in the live stream. Exactly what we were thinking. I'll pull a sounding on that when Weatherfront gets it, which won't be too much longer. Weatherfront gets it relatively quick. Oh, Weatherfront's actually exactly at it. Watch this. This is 2 hours before the expected peak environment. 2 hours before the expected peak environment here. We're going to pull it right there. This is very cherry-picked. Right there is where I think the best environment is. Northwest Illinois. Look at that. It's not as good as the NAM 3K in this particular area. But that's because your main lower level wind shear, only 170 right now, hasn't arrived. And about 2 hours from this model run, at 20Z, which that's at 18Z, that's when your peak environment arrives. And look, here it comes. Look at that. 25 supercell composite, y'all. And look at that blue significant tornado parameter of 11 plus. Holy cow. Look at this, is about to go absolutely crazy right here. It's about to go absolutely ham in this area. Absolutely ham. I'm very curious about the southern extent of this. Does it actually go ham into also like Indianapolis and where Caleb is and near St. Louis, or is it more limited to this area right in here? Let's go back to Weatherfront. Let's switch back to here. And this is it. This is out till noon. This is in Iowa. Oh, wow. That's already crazy. 245, 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, 3 hours before peak. And this is where things go crazy. You ready? Stuff should be firing right here on this next frame. Oh, it's starting to fire. It's not yet going crazy, but you could see it's gearing up right in here. It's gearing up. The 18Z didn't go out this far. Look at that. Oh my word. I think these storms right up here are barely north of the warm front. Yeah, those are north of the warm front. That tail end might be attached to the warm front. We'll have to see. Refresh, refresh, refresh. Oh my word, it worked. That is on the warm front right there. That one firing, that's on the warm front. This is definitely looking more like the NAM 3K. If I believe that was the model that did that. It was the 12Z NAM 3K that did that. Had more confluence bands. But the HRRR definitely holding off on convection longer. This is your peak environment most likely right here. 5 p.m. Thursday. This is most likely your peak environment. This is for 1 p.m. 3 hours prior to your peak environment. And look at that. Already just crazy. And I'd like to see the rest of this run here on weather front. I'd like to see specifically the 500 millibar wind speeds. Alright, well that's way different. Wow. Talk about a huge difference. The HRRR is absurdly slower and way weaker and way more positive. Way worse trough dynamic on the HRRR compared to the RRFSA. Much worse. Much less favorable for a widespread derecho. That's definitely going to result in later convection, but still could result in a crazy overnight threat. See if it strengthens more on this next frame. We need one more. We only get 2 more frames here. But yeah, I don't trust this one bit. The HRRR hasn't been right any other time. Why should it be right tomorrow or Thursday? A new tornado watch will be issued into North Dakota, South Dakota, and western Minnesota for 75 to 90 mile an hour winds. A few brief tornadoes, 1 or 2 could be strong, and 1-inch hail, all possible. And that is in here. Right in that red area you see. Yeah, I don't trust the HRRR. No reason for it to be right now. There's no reason for this not to go crazy. I don't trust it one bit. Not one bit. Not in the slightest. What went wrong? Definitely the trough. For sure the trough. Definitely the trough. It looks like nothing's going to really go crazy on this run, which I am shocked about. but it's also the HRRR. Look at that environment. Look at that. Just as crazy as we thought for an environment. What was that? 18 supercell composite? 18.2 supercell composite. Or significant tornado parameter, rather. And freaking 39, never mind, 42 supercell composite. I mean, come on. Come on. Just wild. I do want to see something real quick. I'm going to get a double out like this. And I want this one to be the RRFSA 18Z. And I want this one to be the RRFSA 12Z. You guys won't be able to see this as much as I will. And I want to have the supercell composite and the supercell composite. And I want to see for Thursday which one's slower. Ah, you can only do one. Okay, I got to put this one to the HRRR. Put this back. I'm going to actually... Hold on. I think the HRRR is rendered for that, so I'll come back to that. Yeah, it is. There you go. Is that the peak? 7 p.m.? Yep. 7 p.m. is the peak. So what are we going to do? Sounding. Sounding. Right there. Holy crap. 307, or no, 414 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. 556 0 to 3 kilometer SRH. 3,100 Cape. Crazy photograph and obviously contaminated because there's active convection ongoing in that location. That would still be very significant, y'all. Even if this underperformance was to occur, we would probably still end up with a very significant Tor threat right in here. It'd be conditional, but probably worth a moderate for Tor. But I don't trust it that much, to be honest with you. I really don't. Yeah, Tor potential has gone down quickly with this storm. They'll probably let that tornado warning expire in 8 minutes. And we still have a SIG severe for St. John in central North Dakota, but everything else is back down to an ordinary severe. So keep an eye on it, see what happens. Let's see. So that's just north of Minneapolis. That's like right up in here. Is the new HRRR for tomorrow, which it's definitely not going to be 100% correct. I don't think it's going to be that right at all, but I'll still pull it. This is about 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock tomorrow. Not very favorable for tornadoes. I'd like to see the reflectivity, though. Yeah, you just get multiple rounds. You get a round early in the morning. And then you also get another round in the afternoon. And then by the time your main round comes around, there's not a whole lot of stuff left over. Not a whole lot of ingredients left. I think tomorrow's got a lot of uncertainty. We won't really, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again. We won't know the full extent of any of these days until day one. And I think that's what it's going to be. We won't know how bad or how not bad tomorrow will be until we get to tomorrow and figure out what the morning convection's doing and what the open warm sector is doing. Just like today. Today, we didn't really know the ceiling of today until we woke up and the enhanced risk was ginormous. But that's definitely an HRRR run that is crazy, but not actually something that I think is going to actually unfold. I disagree with that pretty significantly at the moment. I'll wait for the other 00Z data to come in before I do my outlook tonight, so I'll put that outlook in the Discord server probably close to 11 o'clock Eastern, maybe a little later than 11 p.m. Eastern tonight. I want to see some more data and see if that data is leaning towards the HRRR or against the HRRR. I can already tell you the wrap is leaning against. So the HRRR, I think, is a full-on outlier, y'all. I really think the HRRR is just garbage. But I'll do a full in-depth model analysis before I make my outlook again. That will be posted in the hypothetical tab in the Discord server, third link in the description. And with that being said, that is going to do it for today's live stream. I will see you guys in tomorrow's live stream at some point. If you haven't already, before you leave, hit that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all so you know when I do go live tomorrow, as we will be live for multiple hours tomorrow, probably just around as long as today. And I hope you guys all stay safe out there. Make sure you stay hyper weather aware. And again, if you haven't already, hit that like button on your way out, subscribe on your way out, share the channel on your way out. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to today's live stream and helping me reach, I believe, just over 4,000 people today with the word of severe weather this week. And that's all because of you guys hitting that like button, sharing the stream, and subscribing, and liking it really, really helped. We got over, I believe, 110 likes in this live stream. And we're now actually at 117. And that's what really pushed us out to the YouTube algorithm. So I really, really appreciate it. And thank you, mods, for modding chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Also, a special thanks to, let me go to here, Legacy for continuing her membership, and Weather Warrior for the, let me count it up, $14 worth of donations. I appreciate it. And once more, stay safe, watch the severe weather, have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night, and I will see you in tomorrow's live stream. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch the severe weather. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night. Thank you, Mods for Mod and Chat, and everyone for being here. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.